Do not adjust your digital device. What you are about to see and hear may shock and appall you. Join our hosts as they encounter countless thrills, spills, chills, and hilarity as they explore the very weirdest in pop culture. The following media is so strange, so beyond the scope of what is normal, it will make you ask the question, why does this exist? Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Why Does This Exist? I'm Chris.
And I'm Rob.
And today we are going to continue our conversation from last time. We wanted to push it out a little bit quicker, but we realized that Hasbro's earning calls was coming with their Q4 results, and they warned people ahead of time that it was that it was going to be a bad quarter. So we wanted to so we figured, all right, let's hold off. Last time we spoke, it was the pre-release weekend of Phyrexia All Will Be One, which I had a great time. I pulled a God box. I got my Elish Norn. I was very happy. That said, I was even happier when I pulled a Sheoldred the Apocalypse Concept Praetor card, which went immediately into my Death Touch tribal deck. So that was good. Having said that, it is now several weeks later. We have gotten Hasbro's earnings report, and I think it's last time we talked about how great the card game Magic the Gathering is, how fun it is to play, how the artwork and the lore have really captured us at young ages, and just how it's been a wonderful game to play. That said, the company is Wizards of the Coast, and Hasbro is just a dumpster fire and just an abomination. These things have been run so poorly into the ground that strong IP is the only thing keeping them afloat. We will get into how Hasbro has massacred Magic. We have gotten into how Wizards of the Coast has made blunder after blunder, and we will also get into the D&D debacle just ever so slightly. This is all this is all in part to bad leadership, but the worst leadership has come in recent times, with Chris Cock, the cockmaster at the cocktail party, enjoying his bag of cocks, and Cynthia Williams, who used to sell cigarettes to children, more or less. Maybe not. Maybe she didn't literally sell cigarettes to children, but she worked for Philip Morris, which is one of the most evil companies in the world. A cigarette company known for, well, marketing their products to children and trying to lobby to get the age limits still okay to sell to minors. Long story short, Big Tobacco funds the the truth commercials and everything as a nice big hefty tax write-off, but also they do this to let you know that basically Big Tobacco comes together to try to warn you about what biggest tobacco Philip Morris is up to. That's how bad they are. When evil is telling you, hey, that's evil. But we'll get into that in just a minute. This is what we are. Why does this exist? We are a podcast that talks about the very weirdest in pop culture, whether it be a card game, such as what we are continuing this week, a strange movie, which we have done in the past, a strange music album, TV shows, you name it, comic books, all that stuff. You name it, we'll talk about it. We'll get to it. There are several ways that you can support this podcast. One of them is through social media. You can go on our Facebook page. That's facebook.com/whydoesthisexistshow, I believe, or whydoesthisexistpod, whatever it is. You'll find us on Facebook. You could be like our friend Muhammad, and you could just tag us in some strange things that you see, and somehow that will find entertainment for some depraved individuals, and we'll get a kick out of it just because it's hilarious. Keep sending those buff cakes, Mo. Or you could also support. We're also on South African Twitter, but you can find us. We probably won't answer you. We that place has been abandoned, and it is a ghost town of what it once was, which was good the first couple of years, and it has devolved into a cesspool of toxicity. You can also find us wherever you get your podcast. You can also find us on YouTube, but we barely update that thing. So we're there. If you want us, if you find us on YouTube and you subscribe to us and you interact with our content, then that will motivate us to get our asses back to work on YouTube, because we love you, but it's time consuming. Damn it. Long story short, we don't love you that much. Yeah, we're gonna gaslight you just like Wizards of the Coast has gaslit the community for the longest time. You can also find it. You can also support us in the easiest way imaginable by simply listening to us on every platform that you can get your podcasts, because we'll get paid because you'll sit there and you'll listen through the ads. Maybe they're about big tobacco selling cigarettes to children, or maybe they'll just be about cocks at cocktail parties. We don't really know.
The Cockmasters.
The ad is the ad. It might you might even get a flyer for Cockmasters Anonymous. Like, who knows? Join the club, why don't you? You could, but yeah, you can find us wherever you get your podcasts, and you can listen to us. And if you wanted to give, and the best way to support us is by going over to patreon.com/why does this exist. Wow, Chris, you sure know that one by heart. Yes, I do. Now give me $1. You can head over there. You could give us as little as $1 or more money, and you'll be a member of our Discord server. You could sit in. You could just you could yell at us all day. You could chastise us, or you could just come hang out at the cocktail party where we sell cigarettes to children, and you could just hang out there on our Discord server, and maybe we'll even let you be on a show. We have no idea. The choice is yours. I won't say live or die because, well, that's not my line, and I also don't have the copyright on that. That would be the Shaw franchise and or Lionsgate. But anyway, that's the news. Here's the weather. You are now about to witness the strength of street knowledge from a ragtag group of rogues. So let's get on with the goddamn show, why don't we? Magic is great. Magic is fun. The artwork is beautiful, and it is a fun, complex game, and the lore is deep and rich. Now let's bury the company.
Yeah, Wizards of the Coast sucks.
Yes. Now this company has made mistake after mistake for years, and they originally cared. This is the thing. Oh yeah, some of you who listened to the previous episode when we were talking about when we were talking about the Gatewatch. Some of you may have noticed that we didn't point out Gideon, and we didn't talk about the White Aligned Planeswalker. And you might be saying, "Oh, well, where's my Gideon? Oh, they didn't mention Gideon. Oh, Gideon's my favorite." Well, Gideon's dead.
Ah!
He has been dead in storyline for several years now. He recently has appeared on as of this week. He has appeared on. I'm not making this up. Hot Pockets. If you go to your local Walmart or Costco or whatever, you will find, and you go to the fast food section like you normally would have, you will find a box of Hot Pockets with a picture of Gideon and the Magic 30 logo on it. I mean, Magic players eat Hot Pockets. I don't like those things, but if you go to an LGS, there's a chance they might have Hot Pockets for sale in a microwave. Also,
Well,
Magic players spend so much money on cards, they can't really afford much else sometimes, and I guess It's an idea.
It's also I want to point out too, because I'm looking at it. It's not even a fucking like advertisement for Magic the Gathering necessarily. It's a fucking advertisement for the fucking mobile app, fucking MTG Arena.
Yeah.
So it's like, what the fuck?
Bad marketing is another thing. In case you were wondering where we were going with this, bad marketing is one of the many bad decisions that Wizards of the Coast has made. In recent times, their PR guy / marketing guy, Blake Rasmussen, not to be confused with Fleming Rasmussen, who engineered Metallica's first 3 albums and is a sound engineering god. No, this is Blake, the redheaded stepchild of the bunch of the Rasmussens. He's not a very good writer. He also is kind of a douche from his appearances. It seems like he's kind of a douche, or he just really used to like this company and he hates it now. Probably that one. But yeah, so this is the PR guy. He in recent time, like as recent as like a couple of months ago, he just said on a stream when people were talking about the Magic 30 debacle, which we are going to get into. He had just basically looked at the camera point blank and just said, "You can engage with the product you want, and you don't have to buy all of it." So when the PR guy for the company is telling you you don't have to buy everything in a capitalist society, that should tell you something. That he is also they've also said if you when people have been critical of expensive products or overpriced things, maybe it's just not for you. Is that what is that what someone wants to hear who wants to buy something? Maybe this just isn't for you from the company making it. I
literally
don't think so.
the opposite of what the fucking company should be saying to sell their product.
Yes, for some reason, and this company has only survived on having strong IP like Magic and Dungeons and Dragons. It is only the IP that is keeping this company in business and nothing else. Because if you look at the company's actual business practices, they have they have followed the exact template of how can we kill this company the fastest, and it just hasn't worked because the IP is so strong. Now, that's not to say that they didn't ever have good leadership. They had pretty good leadership when the company had first formed. We can get into the history just a bit right now. Founded by Peter Atkinson in 1990 outside of Seattle, Washington, and the HQ is in Renton. Yes, for a moment I'm reading the Wikipedia, but I'm not the president of Wizards of the Coast, so I guess it's okay for me to read the Wikipedia of certain things.
Well, you know.
But long story short, they created the game, and long story short, this is a company. They created the name of they created this company based on the name came from a guild that a D&D guild that Peter Atkinson was playing it. They were known as the Wizards of the Coast, and then he was like, "Oh, wouldn't it be fun to name a company that?" So he did, and long story short, Richard Garfield designs Magic. They decide to do they decide to create this company. They do it. They make this card game. It takes off. Everybody loves it. Yeah, good job. And they initially were creating the Pokemon trading card game too, and as well as a slew of other products. I do not they do not own I don't think that they own the Pokemon card games anymore. I think Nintendo now owns it or some other company, but somebody else.
I'm pretty sure Nintendo just started manufacturing it themselves, which like I don't know why they couldn't have done that from the start, because Nintendo literally started out as a playing card company in the 1800s.
I don't know.
So
I guess they didn't I guess they didn't think of it, or maybe when the card game was first being introduced as an idea, they were probably just like, well, we don't really this isn't really our specialty, so like maybe we should, because it wasn't really like, because the Pokemon Company wasn't the Pokemon Company that it's become at the time. It was just starting out, so they were probably like, all right,
Yeah.
well, we should have a trading card game for this, but we make the video games. We probably it wouldn't make sense for us to be the game designers for a trading card game. So maybe let's have a trading card game company make this for us. So, oh, these guys, yeah, they make the Magic game. Okay, cool. My nephew plays that. Yeah, let's talk to them. Okay, hi, do you guys want to make the Pokemon game? We don't really know if it's going to be that good, but yeah. And then they were like, okay, cool. Anyway, this company was managed quite a bit better at the time, and and they once were okay. The designers of the game have mostly been very good for years. In more recent times, the lead designer Mark Rosewater and Aaron Forsyth, they really have they've fallen way out of touch with the player base, with the community, and some of it might be their fault because they do have huge egos and they think that they can do no wrong and they think that their stuff is perfect. Like Mark Rosewater's examples, one of them we'll get into is the companion debacle from the 2020 Ikoria set, and just the amount of bannings that have occurred in like in Magic, just standard in general, and power
Yeah.
creep and all that other stuff. It's just bad game design has gone into has
Well,
just
and no
happened
play
over time.
testing.
No, very
Or
little to
well,
no play testing at all.
or if there is play testing, it's not being done by professional Magic players, which is what they should be doing. Is they should be hiring
Well, they
players from
used
the
to.
pro leagues and
They
then fucking having them play the new sets,
well,
and then seeing like trying to find any exploits they can find, all that kind of thing. Like, but they don't do that anymore.
no, they once did, and if there was a problem, they would address it. But I think the too many problems. I think one of the things is probably one, budgets being slashed, and two, too many problems kept coming up in design because power creep kept being pushed because, oh well, you got to make these people, you have to force these people to buy the new sets, or you got to force these people to buy the new cards, so you have to make it way more powerful than anything that they're doing. So we need you to ratchet that up. And then too many people came across with, no, there's too many problems here. That creates a problem, that creates a problem, that creates a problem. That's too powerful. This is not powerful enough. This mechanic is broken. Is there a way to interact with this mechanic? No? Well, then you should print an answer for it. What do you mean you didn't? Well, then you can't do that. This should be banned from day one. This should be unbanned because it helps with this thing that should be banned then. And just too many questions, and then just simply ignoring all of it probably led to
Yes.
that. And we'll put
I,
it this way: there used to be a handful of bands every year or every couple of years. You might see 1 to 2 bands from the standard, from modern, from legacy, from anything. You might see 1 to 2 bands across the board every few years. And whenever they did a ban, you would get a big apology because this company used to listen to its player base. It used to listen to the player base. That's no longer true. Instead, they hate the player base and they gaslight the player base constantly. And anytime anything is rejected or by the player base, it's simply ignored, or they tell the players that they don't know what they're talking about, and they keep doing what they're doing, and they keep pissing more people off, and that's led it to more turnaround, more turnover than ever. And the game has, and sometimes, and they have driven various formats into the ground at the expense of Commander, or one format, really, which we will also get into. There's just so many mistakes that this company has made that
yeah.
it's insane that they are still a company. If they did not have Magic or D&D as their IP, and and the fan base wasn't as devoted as it was to these strong IPs, this company would have gone under 1,000 times over.
Well, and to some extent, like they almost pissed off the fan base enough that it like ruined them, and they had to backtrack on something, which was back in November it leaked out that they were changing the open game license for Dungeons and Dragons, which was basically gonna basically screw over a lot of people and like make basically monetize Dungeons and Dragons completely, and like it was a huge fu to the player base, like basically. And so when it leaked out, it got widely published, and like finally the players finally said no, we're not like the players said no. All of like Wizards competition, like all the companies that compete with them, like basically like said, okay, well, we're gonna like release our own thing that's gonna be better and not like monetized, and like you'll be able to actually like do what you want and not have to pay obscene amounts of money, or and so like Wizards was forced to backtrack on that, and like basically like say they're not gonna do it. But it was only because like all the players were pretty much all right. We're just not going to play Dungeons and Dragons anymore.
Yep.
We'll go to one of these other companies.
And they all canceled their D&D Beyond subscriptions at a
Yes.
massive rate.
Yeah.
Unlike the Magic player base, D&D players really put their money where their mouth is, and they held the line, and they just said, "Okay, well, we're done here." And they lost so much money so
I think the
quickly
difference.
that they had to walk the other way.
I think the
But
difference is that there's.
but let's be honest. They're not this is probably a temporary thing. They're going to try to find a way
Well, they probably will.
to do this,
But
and
here's the.
hopefully it's met with the same reaction, and they learn their lesson to stop trying anything like this.
The thing is.
With which that's good, because that helps, that forces a change, because you can hit them because you hit them in their wallets, because the only thing that this company now worships is money, and it only values more money and more profits because it is owned by Hasbro. That is what I was going to get at, to address the root of the problem. In '99, Hasbro bought Wizards of the Coast. Now, still, in 1999, they bought them, but it's been made as a division
Yeah.
of Hasbro, and not the Golden Goose. But Hasbro has been slowly losing so much money over in the past several years, because, well, kids don't buy toys as much. Kids don't really play board games so much anymore. And once you have a board game, you really don't need to like buy more versions of the same board game. So, once you've got Monopoly, once you have a copy of Monopoly in your house, that Monopoly will probably stay in that house for generations, and you'll never buy another Monopoly again, or you won't need to for a long time. Now, they've also and all of their other IPs, they've tried to do like movie spin-offs, and it's been hit or miss. But they've lost so much money, and they've realized that Wizards of the Coast is the only thing that's really making money. So they've pretty much hitched their ride to Wizards of the Coast, which is just a stupid financial decision anyway. It's just, oh well,
I think it's the only thing that they can.
it
It's guaranteed that people are going to keep buying it.
for
That's the
now.
reason
But
why.
the
Well,
management is so bad that people
right.
are going to start turning away from it.
Well, here's the thing, though, and this is what I was trying to say before: is that so Magic the Gathering, it's not so much, but like D&D, there's a lot of competition for D&D. You have stuff like Pathfinder, which is basically D&D 3.5. They call it D&D 3.75 because it's like an improved version of D&D 3.5. And it works almost the same exact way as that. And like there's like probably dozens of other tabletop D20 tabletop games. There's not really any like thing that's comparable to Magic. They have some competition in Yu-Gi-Oh and Pokemon, but it's not really the same thing. It's not
Right.
like so there's
Also, these are
that.
two things based on children's cartoons and anime, where
Yes.
Magic is its own self-contained lore for 30 years of
Yeah. So
lore and storytelling and everything that's baked into it, that's original. Now, you have some things that are like similar that are coming out of the woodwork, like sorcery and sorcery is on its way. I think it's releasing this month or next month or something. Um, and you also have Flesh and Blood, which is getting more popular in the last couple of years as people leave Magic to go look for something else that don't want to play Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh. They've gravitated to Flesh and Blood, which is supposed to be very cool and very affordable, but I haven't checked it out, and I really well I don't want to because I don't want to get as hooked on this. Like I don't want to break one habit to get hooked on another one.
Yeah.
I think it'd be fine to just give it a shot just to see like what it's about, but I don't think I would want to like just start picking up a new game.
Yeah.
There was a game called Force of Will that was picking up a lot of steam for a little while, but it kind of went I don't know what happened, but it just like fell off a cliff.
Yeah.
I mean, you
Well,
also have you have other fringe games too, like MetaZoo
but there's really
and
nothing that's comparable.
there's the Disney one that's going to be coming out soon that people are claiming might be a Magic color, but I think it's all hype. The other one that's probably well, the other one is Hearthstone, which is really that's a different animal altogether because it's only digital, and I think that's Blizzard that makes it, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so Hearthstone is a little bit more. Hearthstone is a different animal altogether.
Yeah.
But like you said,
There's
there really
also
is nothing like that comes close. There's nothing else that
no.
comes close.
No, there and I think that that's why like if they can't exploit the Dungeons and Dragons players, they'll always have the Magic players because the problem is that no matter how bad Wizards screws them over, like they keep coming back for more, you know? Whereas like the Dungeons and Dragons players were kind of like putting their foot down, and I think that Wizards kind of got the message, but you know, who the hell knows? We'll actually see what
Well,
happens
I
in,
think
you
they
know.
got the message to back off, but I don't think
Yeah.
that they heard them. That's what
I
the
think that
difference.
they heard
I don't
I
think there was enough comprehension there. I think they heard them enough to back off for now, but I think they're going to try it again in the next.
they might, but they'd be stupid too because again, the same shit'll
I
happen.
think they'll wait for the movie for the
Yeah.
D&D movie to come out, and then they'll try to do it after because they could because like they with so much money riding on the success of the movie, which I'm not gonna watch it, at least not on purpose.
Yeah, I wouldn't probably watch it. Like the thing about D&D, it's hard to make a movie in a like an open-ended RPG world like how D&D is. Like it's really hard to make a narrative in that world because it's so open-ended and like most people that play D&D play homebrew. You know, it's like a lot of the time, I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of people that play like the pre-made campaigns and modules and stuff, but I think a lot of people like they'll play their own homebrew campaigns. So like, how could you make a movie on a game that's largely based off of, you know, like, you know, everybody's own like, you know, experience that's like it's like unique to every single person that plays, you know?
Right.
So let's just like not forget that they already tried to make a Dungeons and Dragons movie and it tanked completely. You know, it bombed at the box office.
They did?
So, oh yeah. Yeah. Uh I think I want to say Ron Perlman was in it, but let me hold on.
Jesus.
Uh,
Well, I'm glad his career recovered.
Oh no, it wasn't Ron Perlman. It was friggin' Jeremy Irons was in it.
Oh man, Scar definitely. I really hope that Scar had Disney money at the time to keep him afloat for a
Yeah,
while.
well, it came out in 2000, so yeah, it
Oh,
was well
okay,
after
okay,
Lion
that's
King.
all right. So he probably had a good little nest egg and like a Cosite residualis from it. So
Yeah.
all right, at least he could. At
Marlon
least it's
Wayans was also in it.
what?
Yeah.
Why would he do that? I guess he needed the money. I don't
I
know. That
guess.
is a weird. like that is a weird choice for. I mean, both of them. Jeremy Irons is just too high profile for that, and Marlon Wayans just does not make sense.
So apparently, also, even despite it bombing at the box office and being also like universally panned by critics, there was also a made-for-TV sequel called Wrath of the Dragon God that was released in 2005.
Oh no.
So I guess like Wizards did not learn their lesson the first time. They
Well,
tried to do a made-for-TV movie, which was
okay.
also largely panned, I believe.
Okay. Well, anyway, as I was saying, the game design and the power creep and everything. The other thing with with the lead designers issue is, you know, part of it is ego, part of it is being out of touch, but the other part of it is they have bosses to please, and
Yes,
even if
aka the shareholders.
yes, and even if the designers are, even if the lead designers, like let's say Mark Rosewater and Aaron Forsythe and well, Garen Verhey, I like him. He seems like the only one who actually tries and cares about the players. He's the one who should be leading the ship, but sadly we don't live in a world where the people who should be in positions of power actually are. Instead, we get these assholes. Now, anyway, they have bosses to please, and even if, like, let's just say that Mark Rosewater and Aaron Forsythe, they're going to the CEOs of Wizards and Hasbro, and they're saying, "Hey, we can't keep designing cards like these, or these cards can't be printed. These are terrible ideas. We can't make these cards are too strong. They're going to break the game. We can't do this. These cards mess with the color pie. We really can't do this because it breaks the fundamental rules. We can't print that." Because it's on the reserve list. We'll get to the reserve list in a minute. Or we can't print that. We can't do this. We can't make this. And this is too identical to that. We can't do that. And then their overlord just goes, "Yeah, shut up and do it." And they're like, "But we can't do this. It will piss off the player base." Well, I got to make my nut in 3 months. So shut up, or do it or you're fired, and then I'll get somebody else to do it. And it's the what choice do they really have at the end of the day? And then if they're like, well, I'm the face of, like, Mark Rosewater is basically the face of Magic, whether he likes it or not. And so, like, he's the guy who will, say, "Oh, well, we did that. Well, these are the reasons why we did this. This is the reason why we did that. I'm excited for this set. I'm excited for that." Now he can't be trusted anymore because he's lied about things, and he's also just said things that make no sense, and he's also, like, doubled down on ideas that were his personal favorite or that he liked, but other people have rejected and have told him many times that this was a bad idea, such as the companion debacle of 2020. He can't be trusted with this stuff. So
Mm.
even at this point, it's like, well, now he's destroyed his own reputation to, like, shill on behalf of his corporate overlords. Aaron Forsythe recently just launched a survey on, like, Twitter and everything, and he's like, "Hey, how come nobody's playing standard anymore?" And everyone was like, "We've been telling you why we aren't playing this for years, and now you ask us?" And I'm sure nothing will change because the people higher up than those people do not care. Um, but yeah, to put this into perspective, like I said, remember when I said, and I'm sorry that we're jumping around, but there is so much stuff to cover that it's hard to condense this into a short format. Remember when I said that you would see 1 to 2 bands every couple of years, or you would see a handful of bands just in general. Let's put this into perspective. Going back 10 years, let's say, 10 years to 2013, right? Let's count how many bands there were. Bloodbraid Elf, Teething Song in Modern, right? 2 bands for Modern in January. 3 bands for Pauper, Empty the Warrens, Grape Shot, and Invigorate. Okay. April. Trade Secrets is banned in Commander. Staff of Domination is unbanned. Okay. May, in Modern, Second Sunrise is banned. Vintage. Regrowth is unrestricted. Okay, so not a ban. September. Pauper, Cloudpost, and Terminal Fish and Temporal Fissure are banned. No standard bans, right? Standard seemed fine, right? And we only got a collective 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, 9. Didn't touch standard across 4 different formats. All of them were eternal formats, right? Which means you can use all of the cards. That's fine,
Yeah.
right?
Uh-huh.
Let's go to last year. Okay. All right. January. Pauper. Atog. Bonder's Ornament and Prophetic Prism are banned in Pauper. Standard. We're getting standard. Not good. All Runs Epiphany. Divide by Zero. Faceless Haven are banned. Right? That's 6 bans so far in January alone across all formats, as opposed to the 9 that we got in January in 2013. Legacy. Ragavan Nimble Pilferers banned. Historic. Memory Lapse is banned. Historic is their Magic Arena thing. This is the digital game. Memory Lapse. Teferi Time Raveler is rebalanced into... Yeah, they also do rebalancing on the digital. It's pretty stupid. Right, but anyway, what I'm saying is in January we saw more bannings, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, we saw the same number of bannings in January across all formats in January 2022 than the entire year in 2013 in 2013. So that already should give you an idea. Okay? That's bad. Across the rest of the year, we have how many others? This is 9 banning so far in January. Okay. 2, 3. Okay. That's 11, 12, 13. Okay. 14, 15. 16, 17, 18, 19. Why did they ban that? 20? No, I'm sorry. That was rebalanced. Oh god, they made 2 new formats that nobody plays. 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. I'm in August, by the way. 25 bannings across all the formats in August from January through August in 2022, ladies and gentlemen. 26, right? What did I say? 25? I can't even keep up.
Yeah.
26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Well, we're late on that. It's going to rotate out. 30, 31. Well, that's preemptively banned. That doesn't count. Okay. Yep, 29, right? 29 or 30? In just 10 years later? 10-ish years later? Right?
Yeah.
Do you see a problem yet?
Yeah. But,
that is what happens when all you are told is to just ratchet up the power and don't care. Now they were up in years ago. They used to apologize for all of their bans. They used to say, "We are so sorry. We will try to be better. We did not mean to print a card that was this busted. We're so sorry, and we'll try our best not to do something like this again." And for the
Well,
most part, they didn't.
and
And
also
now
for the
they
most
just
part,
to now where they're just like, "Oh yeah, it's banned." Yeah, just every
and
other
well,
week they're like, "Yeah, it's banned now." They even
and
used to just say we're doing a ban. They used to tell you when a ban was coming. They used to warn you, and they used to say, "Oh yeah, in 2 weeks we're gonna have a ban announcement. In 3 weeks we'll have a ban announcement." And now, like, you just wake up and they're like, "Yeah, it's banned now. This is banned."
well, and I want to point out too that like previously, like in the early years when there was cards that were banned, it was more often than not because the players found some kind of crazy exploit that like no one could have thought of.
Yes.
Like because they would like friggin' just play for hours and hours with the same cards until they figured something out. And and they would just keep swapping out different like combinations and find these ridiculous combos. Now it's like the recent bans are because freaking Wizards just fucking put out a bunch of shitty cards like that were just not balanced at all.
Yes, balance is
So it wasn't even like the players had to
awful.
do any work to find the exploits. They were just like, oh, these are exploitive on like day one. I just opened my friggin' like new box that I just bought at the card store
Not
on
even
friggin'
day
pre-release.
one. People will see
Yeah.
the spoilers and they'll say, "Well, that's an infinite combo with this other card in this set. How did they not see that?"
Yeah.
Or they're or like as you're like as a spoiler season is happening, which is all too frequent now because they have pumped out more product than ever. Let me explain something to you. Once upon a time, this was the standard Magic release set of like calendar for the calendar year. You got 4 sets, right? You got 4 sets. You got the 3 blocks in a story that told the entire story on one plane for the entire year so they could really build the world and they could really build the lore and you could fall in love with it, and that was it. And then you got a reprint set or a core set or whatever it was, like a core set, reprint set, whatever you want to call it. And maybe you got like some special product like a commander set or a master set or whatever. And that's right. That's about somewhere between less than 10 product. You
Yeah.
got less than 10 product. It was all pretty affordable. It was all in a good range. A box was $100. There was only one kind of box. This is 2022 from Bank of America, which we'll get into. Right? They have this. They have this nice little chart here. Um, 39 products, 39 sets came out in 2022.
Yeah.
29 sets, and that's not including the secret layer thing, which is their way of trying to get into the secondary market without getting into it because they don't acknowledge it because I don't know if they legally can't or if they just don't want to.
Yeah.
But yeah, they released more secret layers that would basically add up to, I think, almost 1.5 per week in a calendar year. So there was like it was an astronomical amount of product that made that just it was impossible to keep up with. You were getting spoilers for products from the next set while the current one for the other set that hasn't come out yet was being spoiled. And then you would get leaks from another set in between that. And then there would be
Yeah.
all these other things. It was impossible. It's impossible to keep up with things now. Now, it seems like in 2023, they started to slow down a little bit, but only because they thought they were going to make so much money off of exploiting D&D because
Yeah.
they turned their eye to D&D. And when that didn't work, it looks like they're going to turn their eye back to D&Ds. Now, there was this weird fireside chat, which the cocktail party originates from, um, in December, thanks to the Magic 30 fiasco, which I promise we'll get into that. It's just that's a diatribe on itself. We will, well, and there was a weird line about D&D and how like how how they were like, oh well, we can't wait to we feel that D&D is under monetized and we can't wait. We got some big plans in store. We can't wait to show you what we're gonna do with D&D. And then the rest of it was all about Magic, and it was like, oh, that was a weird thing for them to say. Like, what, like it like didn't even like it was just like it felt like a throwaway line, and you like so if you're listening to it, like you were just like, oh, that was a weird thing to talk about, but okay, I guess they felt that they needed to say something to break up the monotony. All right, whatever. No. It was discovered with the OGL thing that that's what they were actually talking about, and them saying we can't wait for you to see what's in store was their way of saying we can't wait to fuck these guys over.
Yeah.
And that didn't work. So good for the D&D community. The D&D community, like I said before, they actually hold the line and put their money where their mouth is. The Magic community, unfortunately, has a problem with that. And
yes.
Well, we will we'll keep saying we hate them, we hate this company, we hate how bad they are. The executives need to go, and all these things. But guess what? When the profits keep going up because you keep buying things, that gives them a license to keep doing what they're doing. So, and Magic players do not hold the line, except for Magic 30, which we'll get into, I promise.
And every single like Magic content creator was like screaming at their like audience, like, stop buying these like friggin' shitty cash grabs. Like, don't do it. Like, because people just kept buying it. Like, and they knew it too. They knew it was just a cash grab and that they weren't going to get anything good. They were going to end up losing money on the stupid boxes. And like, people just kept buying it. Like, like everybody was screaming, like, stop buying it. Like, don't, like, you're just friggin' like giving Wizards like an excuse to keep making this shit because you're buying it and you shouldn't be.
It's like when someone goes on social media. It's like when someone goes on Google and they Google something that they don't like, right? Like, no, I'm not going to use politics. That's too easy. Let's say, for example, I love Skittles, right? This is true. I love Skittles and I love Snickers. Those are my candies. I do not like what's one that I think is really gross? I mean, most candies are really not very good for you. Not a fan of Sour Patch Kids. Right? Every time I see Sour Patch Kids, I get pissed off and I want to destroy my family. But I keep Googling Sour Patch Kids, so I keep getting angry when I should be Googling Skittles and Snickers. Now, because I've been Googling Sour Patch Kids, the algorithm thinks that I like Sour Patch Kids. So it keeps giving me all of the Sour Patch Kids news instead of the Snickers and the Skittles news. Because it thinks I don't like Skittles and Snickers. But it thinks that I'm in love with the Sour Patch Kids. Oh, that sounds terrible. You see what's going on?
Yeah.
Like Wizards thinks we love this. Because we kept buying, because we keep buying this. They keep feeding us crap, knowing it's crap, and we keep buying it, knowing it's crap. And don't get me started on the quality control. Cards used to be printed with good quality. The card stock was good. The printer had a good burr. It was a good printer. They put quality and effort and money into quality and effort. And the cards were great. If you open like a bundle or a box of Magic from like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, even A 94 card, if you're crazy enough. They're pretty flat. They don't really bend. Some of them might curl a little bit just because of time. Just over time, they're naturally going to do that a little bit. You'll never get but if you open up, and the foils were great. Foil cards did not curl, or they barely curled, if they curled at all. And if they did, it was a once in a blue moon, right? Not every not every foil, they don't, nobody bats 1,000, so not every foil was perfect, but they were great. And you used to get little booklets that would have a catalog telling you what was going on the plane, what was going on in the story, what was going on, who these new characters were, who the big bads of the world were, and in the back a catalog of all of the cards from the set so that you could see what they did, and you could see what you had in your collection and what you didn't, and they even had punch holes in them so that you could just put them into your trade binder. It was glorious because it looked like they cared about the player base. Now, if you you can buy anything, and the set and your foils will curl out of the pack. You will open the pack and the pack will be totally bent from the foil. Right? I bought a Commander Legends, and I use that term loosely, Battle for Baldur's Gate bundle a few months ago because it was like $30 or something. It was very cheap, and I was like, oh, okay, let me see if I could hit one of the fancy dragons or something. I didn't, but if you buy a bundle, used to call it Fat Pack. People are, well, I don't really know. They changed the name for some reason, probably because you can't, probably because the word fat offended somebody. I don't know. Um, and they give you like half. You get like 40 lands with your bundle for some reason. They give it to you, and half of them are foil and half of them are non-foil. The foil ones were so bent from as soon as I opened them. Like I didn't even have to do anything. I simply opened. I took the cover off of the bundle, and you could see this giant like Pringle, and you were like, and you were just like, oh, okay, well those are the foil things then, and this is just the quality that we're used to. Where if you were like the quality control was good on the recent Dominaria remaster, they actually put in quality in there, and everyone was like, wow, these foils are so great. They don't curl, and it's like they're not supposed to curl. It's like the Chris Rock joke where from Bring the Pain, where the guy's like, I pay my bill, I pay my taxes, I pay my bills. And he's like, you're supposed to pay your bills. You're supposed to pay your taxes. Yeah, you're supposed to have good quality foil that doesn't curl. You're supposed to have cardstock that doesn't bend out of the box. You're supposed to have good quality everything. You're supposed to have good game design for a game. You're supposed to have good lore in a game about lore. There also used to be physical books explaining the lore of what was going on in the Magic storyline. They used to contract authors and they would write actual books that you could take home and read. Um, and now you will get the story online, but instead of getting a full on book, you're getting like 6 stories of varying quality. And that's because the writers are, well, of varying quality. You are also getting, there's also other liner notes in some of the books. Like they did a full on book a few years ago to conclude their big War of the Spark story arc, but because they were trying to do partnerships with China for things, China told them that they like to explicitly change certain things about some of their characters that contradicted the lore in the past. Like I'll like the two planeswalkers, Chandra and Nissa, in the lore, there was always a will they, won't they, as to whether or not they were lesbians. And everyone, of course, wanted to believe that this was the case because it seemed like that's where they were eventually going. And when this book came out, China instructed them, because China is very homophobic. They instructed them that none of these that can't happen because we're China and we won't give you money if you do this. They walked the in the book. There's an explicit line where it explicitly out of nowhere, has nothing to do with the story. It just says Chandra liked men. She only ever liked men. Strong men like Gideon, who was dead. Okay, the last part I made up. He didn't die yet, but he dies in the end. And yeah, that received a ton of backlash. Also, the story was written terribly, where like the author has even gone back and just said, "Yeah, listen, I knew this book was dog shit when I published it because they kept cutting they kept changing the deadline and they kept changing what they wanted, and I couldn't keep up with their demands. So that's why this product is terrible. Don't buy it. I wrote it, and I'm telling you, don't buy it." That's one of many blunders. Where it really started was about 6-ish years ago. Sadly, around the time when I came in, so I guess you could say it's my fault.
Botch!
Around 2015, 2016, the Cockmaster himself, Chris Cox, yes, that is his real name. He is the current CEO of Wizards of the Coast. I'm sorry, he's the current CEO of Hasbro. He was the CEO of Wizards of the Coast at the time. In 2016, he became CEO of Wizards of the Coast. He kept running a mandate to double profits or whatever it was. So he kept doing the power creep until the power creep stopped working. And then he just started. The mandate has been to pump out as much product as possible in the last 2 years, because there was always some weird mandate where if they met this mandate, that they would become a full-on arm of Hasbro. Like for the longest time, they were just a subsidiary, right? So like Hasbro was like, okay, well, we own you, but we're not really going to meddle in your affairs. And then he came in and he was like, oh, I'd really like it if they meddled in my affairs. So
Metal me, senpai.
yeah, so yes, meddle me, senpai. So the Cockmaster Chris Cox at the cocktail party, eating his coxswain way.
his cocktail weenies.
Along came a cancer. Not Chris Cox, but a real cancer who killed the CEO of Hasbro, Brian Goldner, who died in October 21. This is true. Somehow, Dr. Cox, the Cockmaster, became the CEO of Hasbro. And his first initiative was, well, I only know that Magic makes money, so I'm going to do all that I can to rely on Wizards of the Coast to make sure that it makes money.
Uh-huh.
And this has been ridiculous things that they have done that have all in the name of short-term profits and has pissed off the player base more than you can imagine in the past, 2 to 3 years. Now, Mark Rosewater is not off the hook for the companion thing yet. We'll get to that, too. But that is
I'd
that,
like to,
and then also the new president. Sorry, I'm on a roll here. Just give me a minute. I don't mean to cut you off, but who replaced the Cockmaster Chris Cox at Wizards of the Coast? But some people might think, oh, someone who has experience in game design, someone who's worked at video game companies. someone who's worked at another card game company, you might think. That would be the logical step if I was running a company that made collectible trading card games. I would think that it would be a no-brainer that I should get someone from a similar business. No, enter Cynthia Williams, who worked for Philip Morris and sold cigarettes to children, or tried to, or worked for a company that tried to. Yeah, big tobacco. That's what I was thinking too. To run a trading card game and a fantasy role-playing game. Well, you know what? Maybe Cynthia. Well, I mean, she did also. She came from Microsoft, where she was the general manager and vice president of the gaming ecosystem commercial team, and drove the expansion of Xbox gaming and the acceleration of game creator growth. Which, and she also was at Amazon, leading the global growth of their e-commerce direct-to-consumer business fulfillment. I'm pretty sure that she did not do really much, if not any of that, and she kind of just sat around hiring other people to do that for her, and has no clue what actually happened.
It's probably some ploy by Big Tobacco to just like put subliminal messaging in Magic the Gathering to get kids to smoke.
That's probably
like that episode of Family Guy where like Peter's like company, his toy company, gets taken over by Big Tobacco and they start like making toys that smoke. It's the same shit.
I mean that. Yeah, I could see that. But anyway, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking somebody who worked in Big Tobacco too that should run a should run a fantasy RPG. But let's give her the benefit of the doubt. Maybe Mrs. Williams is a big nerd at heart, and maybe she plays Magic, and maybe she's a D&D lifer. You would think that, maybe there has to be some logic as to why you would hire someone with not enough to know real life experience with something like this. Someone who doesn't seem qualified on paper. Maybe they're a super fan. You would think that, but during a fireside chat discussing the debacle of Magic 30 to try to like finesse things, which we will get into in a minute because that is the grand finale of this. You would think that maybe she would be able to like to let you understand why, and maybe there's something, and maybe there's something there. No, on this fireside chat investor call, she is reading the description of Magic the Gathering off of Wikipedia. She is reading on an investor call. She is the president and CEO of the company, is reading the Wikipedia page of the company she manages. Of the top earner.
Which is pretty sad. They could have some fucking intern just write a speech for her or whatever, like that, like actually was kind of insightful. It wasn't just Wikipedia.
Yeah,
that's pretty bad.
I remember listening to this, and while I was working, and I was just like, and I heard certain lines, and I heard the cadence of her voice, and she was clearly reading something, but I was like, well, this doesn't sound prepared. Certain words she may have been mispronouncing, and I was tuning in a little bit more, and I realized what she was reading, and I was like, is she reading the fucking Wikipedia page? Turns out she was. This may have been the first time that she even found out what the game is. Not a good sign. No. All right. Now you finish your train of thought, and then I will just jump to Mark Rosewater's mistakes. And then we can go to Magic 30th.
Well, I was gonna say, I was like, that scene in Seinfeld where George gets the job at the Yankees and he does it by berating George Steinbrenner in the hallway about like how you've taken our beloved Yankees and brought them down or whatever. Like, I would like to do the same thing for like the CEO of Wizards of the Coast, like just like, you have caused me and all the Magic player base a great deal of distress. Like, just yell at them.
Probably. Well, anyway, Mr. Rosewater, we will get into him right now and then we will achieve the crescendo of this because I really it's just such a laundry list of bad things. But oh yes, we didn't even talk about the reserve list. No, we should talk about the reserve list too, because that is also where a lot of this problems, a lot of the recent problems stem from. And like I said, you tell me how many. You tell me when it's too much product. With over 100 individual releases of between secret layers and sets and whatever you have. Also, there you remember how I said you used to get one type of card and one type of box and one type of thing and one type of there was only one type of pack of cards that you could buy of Magic. It was of whatever the current set was, and it was just one pack. It was what would now be known as a drafts pack, and you just had your cards, you had your one rare, you had your one version of the card, two if you include the foil version, okay. And that was it. Not anymore. There are draft boosters now, which are just optimized for draft, okay, fine, which was what the original boosters were. There are set boosters. Set boosters are just randomly assorted cards and that have a high chance of gaining one of between 3 and 6 different versions of the same card, including the rares and mythic slotted cards. Uncommons sometimes get these treatments, and regular commons. I don't know why. So in this pack you have a higher chance of getting a variant card, and it's not like there's just one other variant. There's like several variants. You can get more rares in the set boosters. You have a higher chance of getting more rares in the set boosters. Then you can also sometimes get more rares in a draft booster, but you have a higher chance of getting more in a set booster. There's art things there for some reason. Um, I'll put it to you this way: you had two versions once upon a time, and one kind of pack, right?
Yep.
Also there are two different types of boosters for oh yes, there's also the collector booster. I'm sorry, there's three different types of boosters. Now the collector booster is it's one of the it's a variant exclusive to the collector booster, and it's foil and whatever, and these boosters only get rares and mythics, and they're all blinged out and everything, and these boosters are about $20 a piece.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Out of control.
I'll put it to you. Yeah, you tell me when it's too much printing though, because they don't seem to think so.
Well,
on this fireside chat, Cynthia Williams, who may or may not sell cigarettes to children at Chris Cox's cocktail party, Becca Cox, um, on their Magic Cockpit ride. They may she on this fireside chat she has said that there is no when asked about the concerns of overprinting, she has said there is no evidence of overprinting. You tell me when it's overprinting, because clearly I don't know. But but like I said, there used to be 1 to 2 versions of a card, being the foil and non-foil, right? 2 versions of the card. One type of pack. One type of box. Oh yes, there's boxes. There's different boxes for each of these set variants. So there's the draft box, the set box, and the collector box. Right? Okay, we all clear on that? Okay. There used to be just these 2 versions, the regular rare and the foil version. Okay, that's fine. And the foil version was printed with quality and love and care and tenderness. It's like they cared about the player base once upon a time ago.
Yeah.
For Phyrexia, all will be one. The latest set. There are, and let me try to find this. There are. Oh, good. It pops right back up on TCG Player. Let me see. Let me show you something. Let me show you something. Okay. Let me see. Elish Norn. Elish Norn. She is the big chase card, the mother of the machines. Mama! Ooh, I'm really going off the deep end for this one. Not Elish Norn, not to be confused with Billie Eilish or Eilish Norn. That is something completely different and out of this world. They'll probably do a secret layer where they just throw her in there for some weird reason. Okay. Elish Norn, mother of the machines. There is the foiled version. There is. Oh wait, actually, you know what? Let me not even say this because there are foil versions of all of these versions, right? Right? We hear
Oh,
that? Okay.
fancy.
Okay. There is the regular Elish Norn, Mother of the Machines, right? The regular one. There's the pre-release one, which the pre-release card, okay, you could get that of anything, that's fine, right? So don't worry about the pre-release. This is what you can get in these are the various packs, right? Right?
Yeah.
These are the various things that you could crack in a pack. There is Elish Norn, regular Mother of the Machines. Elish Norn, Mother of the Machines in the Phyrexian printing, which you really can't use because no one speaks Phyrexian! So that's two versions. Mother of the Machines Showcase, which has alternative art. Right? Right? We got that? We got that? Okay. There's the promo pack version that you get in a promo pack. It's got a stamp on it. You can do stuff with it. I don't know. There is the borderless Elish Norn. Right? Right? You got me here? You got me here? Okay.
Yeah.
There is the Elish Norn, Mother of the Machines Concept Praetor, which is my favorite version of this. Right? There is the Mother of the Machines Phyrexian Step and Complete Foil, which I don't. It just has Phyrexian foil stamps on it. It's fucking stupid.
Yeah.
There is Elish Norn, Mother of Machines Borderless Step and Complete Foil. There is the Showcase Step and Complete Foil. There is the Concept Praetor Step and Complete Foil. There is the art cards, which it's just the art. It's not the card. It's not a real card. It's just the artwork. There is the gold stamped signature of the art. The art has 3 variants, 4 variants. If you don't like that's problems already because the art is just useless without the card because you can't play with the art. You could the art doesn't do anything. It's just art.
It makes it look nice.
No, but it's there's 4
And now
fucking
you can make
versions
it
of
look
this.
nice 30 different times.
Yeah, I guess I don't know. And there is the fancy there's the fanciest version that they have now decided to make fancy versions of the bundles, formerly known as fat packs. Can't say fat because fat cocks don't like it. I don't know. There's the oil slick raised foil, right? That you can only get in the Phyrexian in the completed edition bundle, and you can't get it in anything else. And that's
So it's
why
like a friggin' it's like when fucking bullshit like
it's
they have pre-order exclusives at GameStop for like certain video games and stuff like that. Like, oh, if you pre-order at GameStop, you get like this special suit that you can't get anywhere else. It's
yeah,
like that kind of
basically. Or if
bullshit.
you go to a comic book store, or if you go to a comic book store, there and you go to buy any comic book now, not even like a special comic, not even like not even like a like a milestone issue, not like a 300, not like an issue 300 or something
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
that. Just like any issue 271 where nothing eventful happens at all. There's like 8 variant covers of the same comic book, and then there's the one issue that you can only get at that store, which that variant is the only one that really matters in the grand scheme of things, because you really can't get that anywhere else. And some of the other variants are printed less, and you don't really know which one, and it really depends on who the artist is, so you kind of know but you don't really know. And it's like, well, and only like 1 to 2 of them are actually really worth anything at all for your collection, until like, unless you sit on it for like 40 years, and then maybe it'll become worth something due to scarcity, or they'll make a something where the character matters. I don't know. But yeah, you tell me if this is too much. There are, and by the way, there are foil versions of all of these that I have not mentioned are foil. Like, not of the step and complete. I mean, just there's the regular foil and there was the regular non-foil. So collectively, there are Phyrexian Phyrexian and Phyrexian foil. That's 2. Normal and normal foil. That's 4. Oil slick raised foil is just foil by itself. That's 5. Borderless, 6. Borderless foil, 7. Pre-release version, that would be 8. Mother Machine Showcase. And the foil version, that's 10. Right? The promo pack, which I think is just stamped, I don't know. Like, let's just say that's 1 to 2. So we're already at like, what are we at? Are we at
12, 11?
11 to 12?
Yeah.
There's the Concept Praetor. Normal and foil, that's 13 to 14. The Step and Complete foil, that's 15. There is no Step and Complete non-foil. There is the Borderless Step and Complete foil, that's 15, right? 15
or 16.
15 or 16. Showcase Step and Complete foil, 16 to 17. And last but not least, the Concept Praetor Step and Complete foil. That's 17 to 18 versions of the same card.
Yeah.
That, you tell me when there's too much.
Well, and even like
this is
Bank of
the
America,
Showcase Mythic we're talking here.
And if you don't believe like us, like, oh, we're just 2 guys on a podcast, but even Bank of America has said that their stock continues to underperform because, quote, they face a steep decline in its sharp share price if continue to destroy its customer goodwill by over monetizing brands within its Wizard segment. So specifically Magic the Gathering, and then Dungeons and Dragons with the fucking whole debacle with the OGL.
Yep.
So like, but like, this is like specifically like it's affecting their stock at this point because people are like, what the fuck are they doing? They're making a million versions of the same card. First of all, they're going to make the card worthless because there's like a billion versions of it. It's like so overprinted. So it's like, you know, oh, and okay, like there's something to be said about them like having the reserve list and like making it like, you know, artificially increasing the price on certain cards or whatever.
Which I promise we'll get into.
Yeah.
This is a doozy.
But like at the same time, they shouldn't be fucking like over like saturating the market with one specific card. Like, that's so stupid because especially for collectors that actually just want to have the card in their collection, not necessarily even like are buying it to like, you know, have the card in their decks. They're just like a collector and they want to have it. It's like, okay, well now they have to go out and spend like how much money to get like every version of it, you know? And Wizards know this. They're doing it on purpose because they want all that extra money. But like, you know, people have to like put their foot down and be like, no, we're not going to stand for it.
Well, also, how many people are just going to say, I don't, like, how many people are just going to say, well, I'm not buying all of these boxes to try to get this. I'm not going to
Right.
buy all of these bundles to try to get this. I'm not going to try to buy them. I'm not going to go to I'm not gonna buy it directly. I'm gonna buy it on the secondary market because I know for a fact that I'm guaranteed to get the card on the secondary market.
Well, and
Now,
you know what?
why
It's like,
Wizards of the Coast can't sell to the secondary market? I don't know. I mean, their way of kind of doing that is the secret layers, but that's at whatever they choose and not necessarily what people actually want. It's just whatever they decide to do, which if you want that version, fine, and it's fine that you're putting more of that out there. If it's like a sought after card that's long been out of print, that's fine. But like it there's like I don't know why they can't just directly acknowledge the secondary market and just sell to a bunch of it. I don't know if it would be
well,
considered a monopoly then.
they probably believe that it impacts their own bottom line in some way.
I guess, but it impacts their own bottom line when people are buying from people and stores and not you. So
Well,
I don't know. But yeah, that I don't understand. But I mean, I guess we could start with the root of that issue. You see, this is like a whole Freudian thing. There's the reserve list, which leads into Magic 30. Um, I don't know. Should I start with the reserve list or should I just start with Mark Rosewater for a second, just to just to explain how this guy is just probably no longer qualified for his position?
uh, I
I did.
don't know. I guess
There's so many fucking problems with this company. I know this is. I
let's
normally
just get
don't curse, but this is like. But
let, let's go into
this is
like more.
warranted.
I mean, we've already talked about the executives and how shitty they are. So let's talk about like what the
Well,
like
Mark Rosewater, I'm just saying he should have been fired for like specifically for the companion mistake.
well,
Because the companion thing, long story short, all right, I'll try to summarize it then. Mark Rosewater rose to prominence from, well, he was a guy who he wrote articles for like a Magic the Gathering and hobbyist magazine while he was trying to be a TV writer or be on TV or something. I don't know. He was like, long story short, the guy's a failed stand-up comedian. He wrote like 2 episodes of Roseanne or something, and that's his claim to fame for that. And he was a big Magic player and he played Magic and he wrote articles for some like fan for some like fantasy magazine and like trading card magazine or something. In the 90s there you could get a publication for anything because journalism was, well, one, more credible, and two, we didn't really have the internet, so it was all
yeah,
you'd have
that
to
was how
actually
you
buy things
learn
to
things.
get your
Yeah,
information.
magazines.
Yep, physical, tangible objects. What a time. Anyway, they like I think it was Wizards magazine at the time. I think that's what it was. He wrote
Yeah, I
articles.
think I remember seeing those in the stores back in the day.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. He wrote articles for them, and then they brought him in, and he was helping with like the story and stuff, and that was fine. But this freaking guy just couldn't let it go, and he wanted to be a game designer even though he didn't have like a math degree or anything that you might probably need to ensure balance in a game, like the founder Richard Garfield, who was a mathematician. um, he keeps saying, I want to be the head designer, I want to be a designer, I want to design the card game, I want to design the card game. It was basically like it's basically a caution. It's basically what happens when you let somebody who is too much of a fanboy or girl or person in to the world, and you let them get too close to the sun, and then somehow they manage to Icarus their way to the top and it's too late.
So you mean like a certain CEO of a certain wrestling company that will remain nameless?
Yes, yes, yes. um Well, he wanted to design a set, and he begged them so much that they were like, if we let you design once, and he like, and the head designer at the time kept saying, no, no, I have a great idea, no, I have a great idea, no, let me design a set, no, why can't I design a set, no, can I please design a set, no. He went around his back and talked to and pleaded with Richard Garfield, the creator of the game. The mean man who knows what he's doing won't let me design a set. Oh, okay. Well, I'll talk to him. Hey, just let him design this set. I don't. He's not going to have any good ideas. He shouldn't design the set. Okay. Well, hey, bad news. He says that he won't design the set. Mark Rosewater goes to the guy again and says, "But Richard said that it would be okay." And the guy's like, "I can still say no." And he's like, "How about you let me design one set, and if it does badly, you could fire me." And he's like, "Okay, fine. It's your ass if this doesn't do well." He designed Tempest, which was a very good set. I'll give him credit. Tempest was a very good set. It did well. So they started slowly letting him design some more sets here and there. Like some time went by and they said, "Hey, you could design another one. Hey, you could design another one. Hey, you could design another one." Eventually that guy left, and then he was designing more sets at this time, and he moved into the design set because the guy who once pulled the reins was no longer there, and then they were like, "Okay, well," and then he buddied up to the right people, he got in, and now he's the lead designer. And it got to his head, and he now creates more problems, and from what a lot of content creators that may or may not have sources within the company, a lot of the time is him coming back with these ideas that are terrible ideas, and they have to rein him in for every single set that he has a hand in, which is pretty much all of them. And every once in a while they'll let a couple of his less problematic cards get into his set. So a lot of the ones, so without fail, if you see a card that has been banned over the last few years, a new card come out that has been banned over the last few years, or a card that you've looked at and said, "Well, this is too powerful," he probably designed it. So yeah. So for every card that you're like, "Oh no, this is a bad idea. Why did they let it go into effect?" There's probably the original version of that card was probably 1,000 times worse.
Yeah.
He once had good ideas. He once was pretty decent at his job. He has since proved his incompetence in recent years by letting it get to his head. Because
Well,
now,
you either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
pretty much, he now spends his time only like listening to people who worship the ground that he walks on and gaslighting other people that tell him that he should stop it.
So he's become the Adam Sandler of Wizards of the Coast because no one wants to tell him no, that's a bad idea. So he just keeps making shit.
Well, also Adam Sandler owns his own production studio, so he can
Well,
do what he
yeah,
wants. But anyway,
that's true. But he's got like no one there to tell him no, Adam. That's a bad idea.
yeah, well, even so, he's still like, "Well, listen, Netflix is footing the bill. I don't care."
Well,
He has different priorities. Also, his movies are mostly for children and young families. So,
well, I was referring more to his like later like comedy films like Jack and Jill, and then the other one where there was the weird incest angle with his
oh,
son-in-law.
that's my boy. Yeah, okay, those were not designed for children. Those were just
Yeah,
terrible. Yes,
yeah,
okay, that makes sense.
yeah.
Anyway, so this enters the companion thing, which proves his incompetence more than anything. Um, a while ago, he wrote like years ago, he wrote about a mechanic that he designed that when they actually had play testers and actually cared about their player base, he designed a mechanic where it was like where like you could just start by you had an eighth card outside that like you start the game with 7 cards in your hand. You could have an 8th card that you could access at any point in time. Um,
Huh.
right? You just could. Whenever you had enough mana to use it, you could just play that card. Um, this was fundamentally bad. This was so flawed. This was so flawed in its design that even a child could say, "Well, that gives someone too strong of an advantage over someone not using it who chose not to do that." Um, because it's pretty much your win condition that you have it outside that you can access at
Yeah.
any point in time. So of course it was the gameplay was so unbalanced where you either
Yeah.
had someone who just over were like the person using this mechanic over like destroyed the other person immediately, or or if both of them were using this particular mechanic, then then it was just a race to see who pulled their win con out first.
Yeah.
So like, and it was just an unfun experience. So like, so many people got frustrated with this in playtesting that they decided it was a terrible idea and that they would just never use this mechanic. Now,
Mhm.
remember that thing about his ego that I mentioned getting too
Mhm.
big? Well, fast forward 20 something years to 2020, they bring out the Ikoria set, which they had switched out for another set that they were working on, which was supposed to be the second half of the Throne of Eldraine set. That for some reason they abandoned and they moved, and like Ikoria was supposed to come out like probably in 2023. Instead, they switched things around. I don't know why. I wonder if it has to do with the Godzilla promotion that they did. I don't get it. But anyway, we'll get to the universes beyond crap also. Um, God, there's a lot of bad decisions that this company has made. This is
I mean,
probably
we
going to
could go
be.
on for literally like
This is definitely going to
hours.
be the longest episode that we've had by far. Um, so
Well,
so
I mean, we
anyway,
could continue to talk about this forever. So I mean, I think people get the idea that like of the bad decisions because like literally we could go on for
we
hours
really
and
could.
hours.
We really could. But anyway, so to get around this, the Mark Rosewater thing. So in Ikoria, 20 something years after this thing, after he's already said in a blog post on Wizards of the Coast's blog that he made this mistake years ago, they play tested it, it was a bad idea, and they scrapped it forever. And they never talked about it again. Guess who's talking about it again? He decides to bring in the companion mechanic simply to simply to stroke his own ego, among other things, at the cocktail party with Chris Cox and his cockmastership. He There's so many cocks. He and they all suck.
Huh.
He that he introduces the companion mechanic in what's known as the Year of Commander, which did very little to nothing Commander related at all.
Uh-huh.
Um, it was also the year of the coronavirus where they printed a Godzilla variant that is called that bears the title Death Corona. I'm not making this up. That's the name of Godzilla's like fire breathing blast. It just
Oh my
is
god.
it's a coincidence. It's a pure coincidence that this was designed this way and released in this pattern, but you can't make this up.
Magic did it first.
Yes,
Like
somehow.
since the new Simpsons did it first.
Yeah. So the companion mechanic was exactly that. You could start you like it is the 8th card that you can access at any point in time. It just comes with one caveat that it restricts that it has a deck building restriction to it, which seems like a drawback, but actually no. Um, they This was marketed as a way where you could kind of have a commander during a regular game. How well do you think this was rejected by the community immediately? So badly to the point that they all brought up this blog post and they were like, "Wait, so you put out a bad idea knowing that it was a bad idea after having play tested this and proven that it was a bad idea, and you knew it was unbalanced, and you knew it wouldn't work, and you knew that people hated this, but you did it anyway because it was your idea, and you wanted this, you just wanted it to work so badly. You should be fired. This is purely a show of incompetence. You're an idiot. You should be fired. Instead of saying, "You're right, I was wrong about this, I'm so sorry," or resigning like any normal person would have, or something, he gaslit the community saying, "No, this is a really great mechanic. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with it." Well, then why does everybody want every companion banned immediately
Yeah. Yeah.
before they're even released? Why are they saying, "Can you preemptively ban these?" Like, he couldn't let it go. And it got to the point where they had to errata the commanders. The companions. They had to errata them, where
Yeah.
they were like, where now instead of being able to access it, you have to pay 3 to. It just starts in exile. You have to pay 3 to get it out of exile and into your hand, and then you can play it. That still was too broken. And they were like, no, this is still horrible. You didn't fix it. You put a band aid on it, and it still sucks. We don't like this. You didn't even print, you printed only one answer to this, and even that answer sucked.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, why would you even do this? Like, and eventually after enough pressure, he of course did not resign, but he was like, okay, fine, it was a bad idea, I'm sorry. And it was like
Yeah.
a half-assed non-apology,
Yeah.
and like just showing that this guy has just become a man-child, or maybe he always was. Seems like
Yeah.
he always was, and now he's just like comes off as a spoiled brat in his 50s, which is sad and pathetic.
Yeah.
He gave a speech called like when he was like a 20-year employee or whatever, that was like 20 years and 20 lessons or something like that. And all it really went to, and it was all the design mistakes of all these various cars, and it's like, and how they don't do it, and why it was a mistake. Not, and he failed to mention that he rarely mentioned that they were just simply too powerful and broken. It shouldn't have been, and should have been play tested more, or just should have listened to people play testing it that probably said, "Hey, this is a bad idea," um, or just putting his ego aside for a minute and not designing the card. No, instead, the more that you instead it's basically 20 years and I haven't learned anything.
Yeah.
So because it still shows in design, we also have the energy mechanic from Kaladesh that was inconsequentially broken simply because there was no answer printed into the set. And they had gremlins, and it would have been a great mechanic for gremlins to just take away energy and to eat energy. So, like, if you printed a gremlin, if you printed several gremlins of different colors, that when you like or words that said like do this and or like remove 2 energy from target player, it would have been a fine mechanic because there was no interaction, and the most basic person who understands any form of balance would know that if you if you add a mechanic, you should have a way to interact with that mechanic so that it's not oppressive. But no, um so that's all that I got to say about him.
Yeah.
Let's get to the start of the Magic 30 by mentioning the reserve list. The reserve list. Well, I guess you can talk. My voice is a little bit harsh,
Well, the reserve.
and I
Well,
think they're all
so
sick of me now.
the reserve list was. It was basically like there was a list of cards that were like they were out of print, I believe, right?
Well,
And
yes, they are now out of print, and and
it was like the
they
big ones, like the Mox. It was the Power 9 and like like a bunch of rare cards that were old,
Yeah.
basically.
And they reprinted them one time for, I think it was, what was it, ninth edition? Or
It was what they did that like. What
I
was it?
forgot what it was called.
I forgot the name of the set. It was something like Masters, like
They did.
Legendary
Oh, do you
Masters,
mean
or
Legends? No,
no, I
not
don't remember
Legends.
what it
It
was called. It
wasn't
was something.
Legends.
It was like something Masters or something like that. I forgot what it was, but it was basically like it was like a bunch of like old like they had like the Moxes and stuff, and they were reprints basically. And I guess like it was weird because like the value of it, like some people were like looking for the Moxes and like and like the Black Lotus.
Unlimited. That's what it is.
Yeah, and I
They.
guess
It
like
was the only time that these cards have ever been reprinted.
yeah, but they weren't nearly as like expensive or like going for as much as the originals, obviously, like first editions.
Right, and they
So
still
like
aren't. You can get a Black Lotus from Unlimited for $10,000,
yeah,
which, yes, it is expensive. It seems like a lot, but when you look at the Alpha Black Lotus, which goes for a
it's like for
100,000,
500,000.
yeah,
Yeah.
graded, ungraded for like it's like in bad condition, you're still paying about $60,000 to $70,000
Yeah.
for a like damaged Black Lotus from Alpha. So I guess you might as well take the beta version. But yeah, it was that and the original dual lands and the Moxen and the Black Lotuses
Yeah.
and Time Walk and all that stuff. The Power Nine and the
The dual lands.
yeah, the Power Nine and the original dual lands was really what people were pissed off about because people started to because the value of cards started increasing and all of these old cards due to scarcity
Yeah.
started increasing, and this is kind of what probably the biggest problem of Magic is that is the investor players. It was really the investor base because they're, let's face it, they're not all really like they're not entirely players. They're just like they're people who are they're the collectors who speculate on this stuff and who
Yes.
tie their life savings to this instead of real stocks. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't freaking get it. But okay.
Well, it's probably some people that are just rich too, and they have fucking disposable income, and they're
Well,
like,
there's
"Oh, well,
that
it's Magic
too.
the Gathering. Like, I want to buy like a fucking Mox, and then use it as a friggin' like asset, basically, because that's what it is." Like,
It's become that, even though it shouldn't be. Richard Garfield, the founder and creator of Magic, has said in the past, no card should be more than $20.
yeah,
Like they should all be they should all be fairly accessible. All cards should
yeah,
hold some value, but they shouldn't hold astronomical value, which I
well,
believe too. I don't think a card
yes.
should be worth more than I don't know,
I mean,
30
to,
$40 maybe
if
at
I have
best.
a thing. If it's like an old card that's out of print and is super rare and is like hard to find, okay, that could have some value. But when it's like to the point where you can't even play certain formats because to be even slightly competitive, you have to spend upwards of $1,000 or more on cards. Like that makes it so it's like, how is this all, accessible? Okay, so they have pauper format now too. So like losers that have no money can play. It's like okay, like how about just make your regular formats affordable so that way like anybody can play in like legacy without like if you're playing at a store that does legacy and doesn't allow proxies, well guess what? I hope you're in a rich area because otherwise no one's showing up for your games pretty much.
Yeah.
You know?
Also, also reprinting things, the original one will still hold the most value.
Yes.
Like like
Obviously.
this you can see with Yu-Gi-Oh, right?
Yeah.
Like Yu-Gi-Oh doesn't have a reserve list. They like Yu-Gi-Oh has also reprinted everything 1,000 times over. For their 25th anniversary this year, they are reprinting the original Legend of Blue Eyes set. They're reprinting the first Yu-Gi-Oh set ever,
Yeah.
and they're charging the same amount of money for a pack that you could then. It's still $4 to $5 a pack, and you could with the old art and everything, and That's great. That's the proper way to do an anniversary.
Right. And the thing that doesn't make sense too for like it's not like Wizards of the Coast is profiting over having a reserve list. Like
Right. I
like
mean,
it's
they have
one
said
guy's selling
they have said that the biggest mistake that they ever made was the reserve list, which pretty much
yeah.
is.
It's like,
You
but
could see
like
it.
if someone sells like a Black Lotus on at auction for $500,000, it's not like Wizards of the Coast is taking a cut of that profit.
Right.
You
But
know,
also
they're
what I
not
was
like. So what's the point? Like,
right. Well, also what I was getting at was the original was like, even though Yu-Gi-Oh has reprinted all of these things to death, the 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 original version from what freaking year was Yu-Gi-Oh again?
uh,
2012? No,
no,
2002?
no, way
2?
before that.
Yeah,
Yeah, oh two
2002
maybe.
maybe.
Yeah, yeah,
Like that like that's the that's the most valuable version of that card. Like
right. But it's still in
and that
print, so like you
yeah,
could still get that card and be competitive with the, to use the good cards that were like powerful back in the
right.
day.
If you want to buy the most expensive version to collect, then you can. And if you want to just buy the cheapest version for like a quarter or whatever, you can.
And
It's up
yeah,
to you.
and here's the thing about Yu-Gi-Oh is that like Yu-Gi-Oh has changed so drastically over the last like 10 to 15 years that like it's like you can't even possibly compete with the old cards anymore. They're like basically useless because you'll get your ass like friggin' you'll get the floor mopped with your ass if you try to use like a bunch of old cards in a deck. You basically need to like go into like the newer packs and actually play the meta. Like Magic, like the old cards kind of like you could still probably use like a viable deck that uses old cards from like the 90s and stuff. So the fact that like Wizards has the reserve list and like makes it completely inaccessible for players to buy those cards. It's like they're just doing a detriment to their own game,
Yeah.
basically. You know, which is hilarious because Yu-Gi-Oh doesn't have the reserve list, and like, but like the cards that would be like that like would be expensive. The old cards, like yeah, if you have like a first edition, is expensive, but they still print it. Like so, like you
Right.
could get a less expensive one.
Right, like I'm on TCG Player now, just as an example, using Blue Eyes White Dragon.
Yeah,
Like there's there's several pages of different versions of Blue Eyes White Dragon, and they
right,
all vary in prices. They
right,
like there's some that are several $100s. There's one that's like $1,000, and there's a bunch that are like 50 cents.
right.
It doesn't matter. You just buy whichever version you want.
Yeah,
And
and
if
so
you're a
and you're
collector,
making
then get the most expensive one. I don't
exactly.
care. Like,
That's what I was gonna say. Is like it makes everybody happy because like the average players could still afford to buy the cards, and collectors still have the more expensive ones if they want to be collectors.
right.
So, but Wizards didn't do that. They friggin'
No.
completely screwed
Here's
everybody over.
here's what happened. When like the original cards the original cards started to obtain real financial value, and a lot of people started noticing, and they started to, well, I wouldn't say a lot, but like a minority of the player base, the financial people of the player base, they cared too much about this. They started investing in the product. They started investing in these cards, and similar to baseball cards, similar to comic books and everything like that. It like people thought that there was real value in this, and now there is because of the reserve list. But they put all their money into this, and then Wizards decided, hey, let's reprint this set. So they did with Unlimited. And most people were probably happy, except for these people, except for the financial people who, for some reason, didn't buy stock in Amazon or something that actually would have made them way more money over the long term. Instead, they cared about the financial value of cardboard. Okay. Um, They threatened to sue them because they would lose so much money if they reprinted cards like this. and that their collections would lose value by proxy on the secondary market, and they threatened to sue the company. And I guess the company at the time was smaller than it was, a lot smaller than it was. Yeah. What year was Unlimited released?
It's in the 2000s.
Nine. Unlimited, referred to as second edition, 93.
Oh.
So it was like after beta sold out quickly.
Oh, so it was a long time ago.
Yeah,
Then.
so it was a long time ago. Reserve list creation. Right, so here we go. So this is the stupid freaking thing. This is the damn reserve list. So because things were creeping up on the so on the reserve list, people freaked out. They published the reserve list in 1996, and they were like, "Listen, we can't like," because they reprinted all of these cards, and they were like, "Okay," and like people threatened to sue them, and they were worried because the company had only been around about 6 years at this point, really. Like they were formed in 1990, so they were like, "Okay, well we can't lose." We can't lose the player base because they actually cared about the player base, which is important for people who,
Yeah.
for a company that relies on players to play the games and the products that it makes. Craig's still with us. Holy crap, Craig is still with us. Thank you,
Yeah.
Craig. You're a soldier. Unlike, well, unlike the OBS that we were using. Craig, you're a soldier.
Yeah.
We respect you, Craig. We respect the Craig. Everyone respect the Craig. Bow down to the Craig. The Craig Master, not to be confused with the Cock Master at the cocktail party. Moving on. They created the reserve list. They were like, listen, here is all of the cards that... It is a list of cards from the early sets that they have promised they will never reprint them again. This is their contract with the players, and it's not like it's not really, I guess, a legally binding document, but it binds them enough where you could possibly present a case in court, but I don't think they would lose, especially since ownership of the company has changed hands to a big corporation. I'm pretty sure that they could legally, that the legal loophole is, well, this was created before we owned them.
Mm-hmm.
So we could just get rid of that since now we own the IP and we can do whatever we want with it, which they have
Yeah.
clearly shown that they can and will do. So I don't understand why they just won't abolish the reserve list. But I guess because they just don't want to deal with any potential legal backlash. But yeah, I don't know. So they created this reserve list, and the reserve list is just all of these cards that they'll just never reprint again so that they can hold their financial value. Basically, it was a way of trying to please everybody, and they ended up pleasing nobody except for these few assholes. So they can't reprint the so they can't reprint the cards, or they won't reprint the cards, and they and how they that's how the original versions seem to hold as much value as they do, because it was a promise that they would never reprint it again. Um, that said, like you and I have just said with the Blue Eyes thing, I feel like maybe they wouldn't have held as much value if they reprinted it. If they kept reprinting it, maybe the original versions of these cards would not hold nearly as much value as they do now, which is probably true.
Yeah.
But they would still be worth something. They would still
Yeah.
be worth, like, you could still get, like, you'd still probably be paying, like, maybe you'd pay $10,000 for an original Alpha Black Lotus now if they didn't have the reserve list. Maybe that's how much that would be instead of 100,000.
Yeah.
Okay, or maybe it would be worth $50,000 graded at a 9. I don't know. But you'd still be able to get a $20 version or a $10 version and play with it. But it doesn't matter. You can't. So that's the reserve list. And the reserve list correlates directly to Magic 30th, which is what you've all been waiting for.
If anybody's actually listening.
Those of you who have stuck around for the cocktail party, it's a long cocktail party, big intro speech. They went over. We tried to play them off, but it just didn't happen. They were thanking God for all things possible, who makes all things possible, and their mother, and the academy, and their wife at home. Yo, Adrian, they did it. And everybody else who they had to mention that they came into contact with their life. The guy at Starbucks this morning, Brad, who really came in the clutch. And not to be confused with Brad and Jennifer, who, well, not too many people were happy about how he came in the clutch for their Dunkin' Donuts, and they really didn't want that guy to be serving them coffee that is not as good as it once was because the company went private and all that. And they tried to play him off, but it just didn't happen. And for that, they're sorry. The academy is looking into the academy is looking into who was the gentleman that walked up and slapped him and made sure that he kept his wife's name out of his mouth. That got him off stage pretty quickly. So we thank them for their service. But Magic 30th is the worst idea of bad ideas that they have ever done. And that includes Universes Beyond, which is hit or miss, and we talked about that before kind of in the last episode, where they bring in D&D, which is okay because it's adjacent, but we didn't want functionally unique Walking Dead cards or Stranger Thing cards we really couldn't care less about, but they promised that they would make a Magic functional version, or the Street Fighter version, which they are now printing Magic functional versions, which is fine. But like we said, we want it as a skin, we don't want it as canon. But they made it canon, so there's that. The adjacent things are okay, but we really don't want them there, and we don't like them. It's not a huge mistake, but it's not fun. Also, the company likes to play games with their players where they'll release a new product, and the first one will be great, and then the second version of that will be terrible or have nothing, or like not even be close to the spirit of what the first one was. We've seen them do this with everything. But anyway, Magic 30th. You would think that for the 30th anniversary of your card game, of your whatever it is, of your company, of your anything, like if you make a product and it lasted 30 years, wouldn't you want to give your customers a nice thank you gift? Wouldn't you want to commemorate the event with something really great, with a home run product, and you want all of your R&D teams to like just all guns blazing, just really taking pride in their work and just saying, hey, let's put together this one's about the people who got us here. Let's give them something special. Let's give them something that they're going to be talking about for years. Well, they did that, but not in the way but it didn't take off the way that they would like it, that they would have liked it to. Instead of the 30th anniversary of Magic the Gathering being a celebrated event, being a wonderful time, being something that everyone can say, wow, that was great, they decided to fuck everybody by offering $1,000 proxies, a chance at instead the Magic 30th anniversary thing is no one even knows who this was for. It was a reprinting cards on the reserve list without reprinting cards on the reserve list. It was their way to get around it, or to try to get around it. So instead of...
But also screw over everybody because they were literally worthless.
Yes. So what they did was they created new backs of the cards, right? Okay, so So they reprinted the reserve list cards. They reprinted the original alpha cards, right? The Moxes, the Lotuses, the Time Walks, the Time Warps, doing the Time Warps again. And they you know they did all of it and they put it into these commemorative packs and that they said, don't worry, this is only for collectors. The cards are not legal in any tournaments. You also can't even use them as proxies. By the way, this is $1,000 for
Yeah.
4 packs for a box. A box of this is $1,000. There are 4 packs of these cards, so it's $250 a pack of worthless proxies that aren't even cards. That it's invisible products. It's just this is it is just I don't. No one knows who this
It,
was for because you
exactly, because
can't.
and I don't think anybody bought it either because
No, very few
you could
people bought
literally
it.
you could literally get proxies on like Etsy for like literally fractions of like pennies on the dollar
Well, they
compared to
also
that.
started going after like some proxy companies, like
Well,
like
yeah,
some people who make proxies. They were like, well, only we can make them, but
yeah,
even if they aren't even proxies. But I mean, I'm pretty sure if you're a commander player or like a legacy player, if you showed up and you were like, listen, I have those I like, can I just use these stupid things as proxies? They probably would have been like, yeah, it's fine. We just won't tell anybody. Wait, by the way, did you actually buy that? No, I didn't buy it. I bought it off of like, I bought it on the secondary market for like 20 cents. Oh, okay. Are you sure? Yes. Show me your banking history. Oh, fuck. No, get this guy out of here. Get this guy out of here. You're part of the problem. Get this guy out of here. Yeah, that's kind of how it would probably go. Anyway, um, so no one knew who it was for, and like nobody, and you probably won't find anybody who admitted to buying this.
yeah.
Like anyone who bought this is going to take it to their grave that they bought this. Um, and they did not, and everyone thought that they were going to. This is the only time in Magic history where the player base actually held the line and voted with their wallets instead of
Yeah.
complaining about it and buying it anyway, which is what everyone expected to happen. They, so, and also the chance to even open a Lotus or a Dual Land or anything was very scarce, is very scarce to to get out of the Magic 30th. So you weren't even guaranteed anything good because the other thing about the reserve list is over time everything on the reserve list, because they've just said we won't print it ever again, everything on that list has gained exponential value whether the card was good or was terrible,
Mm-hmm.
right? So even an unplayable card that if they printed it today as a new card, no one would play it and it would be worth like 2 cents at
Yeah.
best, is like $100 card specifically because it's on the reserve list. Even though it's a terrible
Yeah.
card,
Yep.
it's because it's on the reserve list, it's worth money, which is stupid. They've
Yeah.
also printed identical versions of cards or better versions of the same cards in the reserve list to like as a way to get around them. Like they can't print, like for example, they can't print there's good examples of this, but I just don't have them up right now. Also, it's 12:38. We started recording this at 10:34, so
Yeah.
you can figure out what's going on mentally here with me as I slowly but surely go off the deep end and and my consciousness vanishes into a sea of insanity. I think that's the most beautiful thing I've said on this show in the history of this show, which means I'm losing it. As your son would say, I just need a minute to myself. Your son is 4, for those who don't know.
Yeah.
And he is mature enough, and he could probably run Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast flawlessly by himself.
Well, compared to the current, you know.
Well, if he stepped in tomorrow, I think, I think your little chap could really do some wonders on this. So anyway, so so like let's just say for example, I have a card in the reserve list that's a 2/2 bear. It's just it's just called bear. It's a one in a forest 2/2, doesn't do anything else. That's it, right?
Yeah.
You could you and Wizards of the Coast could decide in the next set to print a elf that is 2/2, same thing, one in a green 2/2, except except it has any keyword ability. It has trample. Let's just say that it has trample. It's it's now a different card because it's basically the same thing, but they did something to make it better, right?
Yeah.
Or even similarly, there's the bear card on the reserve list that's just one in a forest, 2/2, does nothing. They could print this. They could print the card today that is brown bear, exactly the same, 2/2, one in a forest, does nothing, but the name of the card is brown bear, so it's okay because it's not bear,
Mhm.
right? So they could do that. They've printed things that do similar things to Black Lotus, but they're not Black Lotus. Like the closest thing is something that they printed in the original Commander Legend set that was actually a real Commander Legend set, and not the bait and switch that they did with Baldur's Gate. Um, which it's Jeweled Lotus, where it's the exact same thing as a Black Lotus, except you can only spend the mana to cast your commander, right?
Oh.
Yeah, it's good, but it's not as broken as people like. It's pretty broken, but it's not as broken as people thought it would have been in the beginning. And you are not going to run into a lot of people that even use that thing because it's only good right away, and it won't be good at any other point in the game really, unless like, or it won't be as good at any other point in the game. So you really need it right away. Similarly to regular Black Lotus, but the Black Lotus would be better in any point in time. But the Jeweled Lotus, you really can only use it in one way. So it's a slightly worse version, which is another way to get around it. You can either make a slightly worse version or a slightly better version or something similar, but you can't call it the same thing. So they have ways around it. Instead, they chose to do this, or instead of abolishing the reserve list, because I feel like legally as a company they could just say, well, the reserve list was created in 1996. We bought the company in 1999 as a subsidiary. They officially became a real part of Hasbro in like 2000 and like 19 or 20, let's just say. So now that they've been officially a part of our company like for a few years now, we own the IP, we own the company, we can do anything that we want with them, including abolishing things that were put into place before we ever thought about owning the company. I feel like legally they can do that, and there's nothing that the community can do. Even if they did a class action lawsuit, I don't think that it would hold water. And Hasbro is such a big company that I feel like they could just drained everybody out in legal fees for the most part. So
Yeah. Well, now.
I really don't think that there's that much of an issue, especially since so many people have left the game that it probably I don't know. I'm not trying to give them ideas here. I'm just saying it like I don't understand why they haven't thought about that, or maybe they have and they've decided not to, but I don't understand. Um But anyway, so they created so to get around the reserve list, they decided let's print the reserve list, but it's not legal in any facet at all, and we'll charge $1,000. I firmly believe that this was originally supposed to be between $9 and $99
Mm-hmm.
a pack,
Yeah.
which even if it was $100, I wouldn't have liked it, but I would have been like, okay, I guess I guess it's a thing. And I'm sure a lot of people would have said the same thing, like, "Oh, this is stupid, but I guess I'll buy one." There'll be a few people like I'm sure, and I don't think anybody would have. I don't think the backlash would have been that strong if it was like priced somewhere in that direction. If it was priced if it was priced $99,
Mm-hmm.
there would have been some pushback, but there wouldn't have been any backlash, and I think the product would have been fairly successful.
Yeah.
And they would have probably done more of them, which even though I don't like that, they would have been a little bit more justified had the price point been 99. But the cockmaster at the cocktail parties decided that they that there was something off about this. Let me fix. Oh, I fixed that for you. Let's add another 9. You mean like 99.99? No, I mean like $999.
Yeah.
And there we go. I firmly believe that this was a stupid executive decision from someone who was completely out of touch at the top,
Yeah.
because they were like, "Oh, well, this is how we can make the most money in the quickest amount of time."
That's like 100% probably what happened. It was some guy who was so out of touch that had no idea what the fuck he's
Well,
even
it
talking
was
about.
probably either Chris Cox, the king of the cocks, the cockmaster himself at the cocktail party, and or Cynthia Williams, who also who reads the Wikipedia page
Right.
and sometimes tries to convince children to buy cigarettes. Maybe not really, allegedly. At least maybe she used to, or at least had a hand in it, or assisted people who did that. She worked for Big Tobacco. Anyway,
Yeah.
this this did not do well, even though every Magic YouTuber was convinced that it was, even though every Magic person was like, oh, they're going to do this again. Because Magic players know, like we said, know that how addicted they are to the game, that most of the time they're going to buy it no matter what happens.
Yeah.
Wizards, knowing this, preyed on this and used a predatory practice that one might say you could see in the tobacco industry,
Yeah.
and the video game industry too. When if you look at one of our earlier episodes when we talk about microtransactions in gaming.
Yeah. Well, and we've like probably talked about this multiple times now on the podcast, is that a lot of the times what's happens is when these companies go public or get bought out by a public company and become publicly traded, it becomes more about making the stockholders happy or the shareholders, instead of actually like making good quality content.
Mm-hmm.
And we see this time and time again. You see it with wrestling, you see it with video games, and you see it with other like card games and other media and stuff like that. Is that you're beholden to the shareholders, like it's going to be bad because they're so afraid of doing anything risky or anything that's creative, because they don't want to piss off the shareholders, because that'll then they won't post the profits they need for the quarter, and then everyone gets pissed off, and then it's like an endless cycle of stupid crap.
Yep. I mean, the other
And
thing with the
that's just,
reserve list is they've made revisions to it.
yeah.
So I don't know, but anyway.
And so the set, I looked up the set before that they did re-release the Power 9 cards. It was the Vintage Masters set,
Oh, okay.
which was like a bunch of reprints. So they weren't worth nearly as much because they changed them. They it wasn't the same artwork. It was like all new artwork. It was basically like new versions of the old cards.
Mm,
Of like, so it was like the Moxes and the Black Lotus and all that.
I see. And the investor base reacted how investors would at something new that could threaten their ideas, knee-jerk
Yeah.
stuff, which in the long term wouldn't have mattered, but too late.
Yep.
But yeah, so as you expect, so in a shock to everyone, Magic 30 did not sell out. Even reviews on like IGN and things like and like other like and other outlets, they like even the reviewers were like, it was nice to like, I didn't pay for this because they sent this to us to review, and it was cool to like, it felt cool to open this thinking I might pull a Black Lotus, but I also knew that this is a this is a worthless card because it's not, I can't play it anywhere.
Yeah.
And I can't use it anywhere, and I can't use it for anything. So all I would do, like, I don't even know what I would do with it. I can't sell it. I can't sit it on the shelf. Like, what? It makes no sense.
Play vintage.
I can't even.
that nobody plays
Yeah,
anyway.
don't even know what I could do with it. So, and like they were like, and then after they were like, listen, it felt cool to have the chance to open a Black Lotus or something or a Mox or whatever, but I like I can't. I don't understand. I like, but if I paid $1,000 for this, I would be pissed off right now that I didn't
Right.
hit anything because all of these other things, it's completely worthless.
Yeah.
So I like, and they also were like at the same time opening this, knowing that other people would pay $1,000 for this, felt dirty. So even the reviewers were like, my reaction to this is kind of meh at
Mhm.
best. And like, but this, contrary to popular belief, people did not buy it. It was so weird. Within 20 minutes of the sale, it like they just pulled it, and you got a strange tweet from Wizards of the Coast saying the sale has concluded. It didn't say we sold it. In the past, any time that anything sold out, it was this big, we did great. We sold out. There's no more. All the product is gone. Thank you so much. Thanks for the money. This is awesome. Well, you guys really love the set. Instead, it just the sale has concluded. And everyone was like, what does that mean? Like, did it not sell out? Like, what happened? Was it an embarrassment? Was it that bad? Did people actually hold the line? Like, how many even sold? And how many? And the other question is, how many of this was printed? Like, how much? Like, what numbers did they expect? Where there is so much out there that nobody wanted. Like, where are they writing? Like, is this? Are we gonna find this in like a desert in Arizona one day? Or like, are
Like
we gonna find this in the Sonoran Desert, like copies of ET?
yeah.
Like, I don't know. And then at that point, will they actually be worth something? I have no idea. Um, but it did not work, and they tucked their tail between their legs and didn't mention it. But when they announced the Magic 30th anniversary at $1,000, the share prices tanked. And if you want to look at Hasbro's stock price over like the past year, I think it's down 25%, and it's dropped it's dropped a lot. Its peak,
Yeah.
I think it was like $120 or $150. Let me see. Hasbro stock.
Well, and
Also,
you know
they
what? It
had
was
also, like we've said before. Well, I think we said it earlier. We said so many things that like they like Hasbro doesn't make money from anything else except Magic now. and they are, in the past 5 years, they've dropped 39%. Okay, we're looking at this. Their peak was in October 2019. They were about $121, almost 122. Then it dropped a few days later to 96, and then it was about $105 in January 2020. Then COVID happened, and like everything else, it collapsed pretty quickly to $46. Not their fault, everything collapsed. And then the
But they
Fed,
kind of boosted back up. They were almost back up to their pre-COVID
oh
levels
yeah,
because
yeah, the
I
Fed,
think a lot of people took up Magic the Gathering and Dungeons and Dragons that while they were in quarantine, and so it became
right,
popular.
right, and the whole, and like people started buying collectibles to hold, which is why if you go to certain stores, you'll only see like Pokemon and Magic behind the counter, and at some points they're only limited to one per customer, because not because children wanted this, but because guys in their 30s and 40s wanted to buy it as an investment. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, people are that stupid. And if you are one of those people, well, you're stupid. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah.
Invest in real stocks or anything. I don't know, but don't invest in cardboard. It's supposed to be like there's a I know on the side of the cardboard box it says ages 13 and up, and I understand that you fall into the end up category, but like that's not what they meant. It's just not.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was going back up. It was $100. You were seeing it at like $102, right? I'm seeing it at $102 in January 2022, right? Okay. Then the CEO dies. Brian dies. Cockmaster takes over. And we start seeing, oh, what is that? Oh, that's a decline. Yeah, that's a decline. That's right. And it's going down, and all right. And now, all right. Remember, we got $102 at the beginning of 2022. Uh, oh, it's $58.46. Actually, 59.36 as of today. Uh, yeah. Does that sound good to you? Does that sound like a company in good shape?
No.
Yeah, I didn't think so. All right, but you tell me when they're printing too much product, because on this call there's clearly no evidence of overprinting product. You know, she also announced that they print sets to demand. Okay, well, what does that mean? Well, if people like it, we make more of it. Oh, okay, well, okay, so you're flooding the market with more product which you already have too much of, but that's not a problem. They did announce it was their earnings call, like we said. They and during this cocktail party thing, and the Magic 30th fiasco was so bad that they had to do a knee-jerk reaction and do the fireside chat that we've been talking about, where it basically just said Bank of and Bank of and like the Magic 30th prompted Bank of America, which further tanked the stock really and sent it on the big downward spiral. Um, which Bank of America like was writing about how they are just how the management is so terrible at Hasbro that they and Wizards of the Coast that they are like they're just so out of touch and clueless that they're like if they don't stop they're gonna like destroy this thing. And this was a knee jerk, and the fireside chat was the reaction to it, where they basically said the financial institution who studies our stock and our business decisions for a living doesn't know what it's talking about.
Mhm.
The player base is a bunch of idiots. Everyone's fine. The product is great. We can't do any wrong. These cocktail parties are awesome. And why am I mentioning cocktail parties for the Cockmaster Chris Cox himself? Well, he mentioned it during this very same fireside chat where Cynthia Williams, who may or may not sell cigarettes to small children, talked about how the player read the Wikipedia for the first time to understand what exactly it is that she is in charge of, and said how there is no evidence of overprinting despite what was it 20 something, what was it, 19 versions of the same card.
Yeah.
But despite there being that, and I'm sure there will be other things that they release that are alternate arts of that same card down the line. So you tell me when it's too much.
Yeah.
So he mentions there was another strange line. There's several odd quotes from this fireside chat, and one of them is Chris Cox, the Cockmaster, talking about how when he first became CEO of Wizards of the Coast, which, by the way, the power creep and everything happened right around the time that he came into power in around 2016. When Kaladesh came out and the creep started really happening, but also was happening with the battle for Zendikar and the Eldrazi. I'm sure that this was happening a little bit before, but now it was really becoming a problem. Anyone who did the Eldrazi Winter knows what I'm talking about. He mentioned how when he was CEO of Wizards of the Coast, how he would go to cocktail parties, and he would talk about what he does, because there's no interesting conversation that occurs at these cocktail parties, I guess, with executives, because if you're executive, your life is whatever company you're the executive of and not much else. It's kind of sad. So you fall out of touch with the rest of the world, and it's you just sit there on your pile of money that you don't spend, and I guess that's it. It's really quite a miserable existence, but it's pretty good problems to have, maybe, I guess. Too much money is a good problem to have, but just not knowing, just being out of touch with the world is a bad problem. Good thing you have all that money to protect you from any actual incidents that could occur in your life, where if you didn't have the money, you would be pretty screwed. But he lamented during this fireside chat, how he would go to cocktail parties, and no one would know what he did, and no one would understand what he did, and he'd have to explain to them what he was in charge of. And boy, did it make him feel sad that nobody cared. And so he becomes and then he proceeds to mention, now that I'm CEO of Hasbro, everyone knows what I do, and it's so great. Now I'm popular at the cocktail parties. This is probably a boy who just wanted to be one of the cool kids his entire life.
Yeah.
He probably just sat at the table in school, just, and oh man, did he really wish that he could ask the cheerleader out to prom. Oh, if only. If only him and his friends would be accepted by the cool kids. If only he could just sit at the table and just listen to Johnny Tambourine and the Funky Robot Machine, just having a ball with all the cool chicks and all the swinging cats, and maybe they would just ask him to cut school with him once, just so he could have a taste of what it was like to walk on the wild side and be accepted by the popular ones. But no, that was not to be the fate of Chris Cox, the Cockmaster. No, it was not. Instead, these cocktail parties were worrisome and troublesome. We've got, there's got to be a record for how many times the word cock has been said during any form of entertainment. I'm pretty sure we're hitting the Guinness Book of Records. I'm going to submit this to Guinness. So if I could hold one record if I could be in the Guinness record book for anything, I guess saying the word cock the most times on some form of entertainment, it's not a bad reason to be in. It's not a bad feat to be in there.
I some may disagree.
Well, at least you could say you're in the Guinness Book of World Records. You don't have to tell them what it is.
Well,
that would just be a good that'd be something to put on your tombstone. Guinness Guinness Book of World Record holder, and just don't mention what record you hold.
yeah.
It wasn't the first record that that I would have liked, but damn it, if I get to be in the book, I get to be in the book.
Yeah.
So he mentions that now it's great to be popular, and he thinks that he has acceptance, not realizing that Wall Street is calling this guy the laughing stock of the business world. So good
Mm-hmm.
job.
Yeah.
Um, so yes, Hasbro and the fate of Magic the Gathering is controlled by two people who would cut off their nose to spite their face and enjoy doing it and cutting off other parts of their faces to spite their faces. And if
Yeah.
you've seen them, they're not really good looking faces to begin with. They're not great faces, is what I'm saying. And their souls are not good either. There's just not much going on there. It's pretty devoid. Devoid is probably their favorite mechanic. It's just pathetic. And well, and the like we said, the earnings call was today. Well, not today. I'm sorry. Yesterday or 2 days ago, since it's now 1:05 in the morning on a Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
As of the time of recording.
We should probably wrap this up.
Well, others may disagree.
If you say so.
But let me I'll just pull this up. Basically, I didn't listen to the investor call. I figured it would be a nothing burger on this, and but to my surprise, it actually was. There wasn't really anything super duper meaningful, except that they mentioned the Lord of the Rings set that's coming out a lot, which is the Universes Beyond thing, which we said is them bringing non-magic IP into the magic world, which is hit or miss depending on what it is. I think it's personally, I hate those. I hate this idea, and I think it's really stupid. It does make sense with Hasbro's business strategy because they just license all their IP out to other things that have little to nothing to do with them. They also have a promotion with Lovesec, which makes I think it's like a boutique beanbag chair. Yes, that's a thing. So and it says Magic 30th on it, and it's $1,000 beanbag chair. I wish I was making this up too, but that's another stupid decision to the list. Just put that in the pile with the things that they'll never learn from. Um, Hasbro investor call. Let me see how much they lost in Q2. It underperformed what people were saying, which was still an underperformance, but it's not great. It did match the expectations of $1.68 billion in revenue, which that's good for, well, you and I. For a company that people expect to make more money in quarterly growth, they did not do that. They lost, but their full year revenues were 5.86 billion. Also, sounds good to us. Sadly, year over year, this is down 9%. They lost 9% of that money from the previous year. So they're losing money. We know that. Not great. They're bleeding money. Profits not great. Profits were down. The fourth quarter revenues were down 17% year over year, decline of 14% on a constant currency basis. They lost 7.5% of their operating profit margin to try to like shore up money for 2020 for Q1 2023. They recently chose to lay off 15% of their workforce, which for a company that acts like it's woke and promotes diversity and all these other things, where their actions in fact speak otherwise, that 15% is pretty much their entire Latin America staff. So yay diversity. Good job showing that you really stick to those initiatives. Um, by the way, you want to hear another wonderful diversity action that they took that really showed how they're down for the cause? With the George Floyd killings in 2020. What kind of reaction do you think a company that likes to say that it's woke and hip with the times and is all about diversity? What in the wake of this tragedy, what kind of decision do you think a company like this would make? Just I just want your thoughts here on what a
Uh,
rational businessman would do.
I well, see, I think a company making any kind of political statement, especially a company that has literally nothing to do with said like situation, like literally not even close to being adjacent to it, should just keep their mouth shut for the good of business.
But if you had to do something, what would you do?
See, I as if I was in that position and I was a businessman, I wouldn't do anything. I wouldn't even comment on it because it's not worth commenting on and possibly getting some kind of
Let's
backlash.
just say you have to, and let's just say you have to.
I say I don't even know what I would say if I had to because like
Let's just say you have to do something. You have to do
I don't see. I
something.
don't know.
What
I
would
don't
seem to
know.
be
I
the
don't have
most
an answer.
what would seem to be the most logical thing that a company could do then?
I honestly don't know. I don't have an answer
Okay.
because it's because I don't think that way.
Okay. Well, let some would say put a focus on hiring more minorities as quickly as possible. But that would of course come with backlash for a savior complex and other things. By putting yourself out there and presenting yourself that way,
Well,
you
so
there
here's the
really is
problem.
no good answer because you present the
Whenever
problem with everything. But here's what I think that they would do, and you tell me, and then you say what you're gonna say. Actually, you say what you're gonna say first, and then I'll say my
well,
thing.
I was gonna say, like when they do shit like that, companies do shit like that. It's so disingenuous and it's so like they're like the people that they're trying to please see right through it, and the people that like are like on the other side like hate them for doing it anyway. So it's like what are they doing? What are they trying to accomplish? They're just screwing themselves over.
Yes. Now, what some people would think that would be the rational thing that a company who is touting its wokeness and diversity and all this stuff would react to this by partnering with more minorities. Maybe others would say hiring more minorities, even bringing on minorities that are contractors on as full-time employees, maybe promoting some of them, maybe looking at your boardroom and realizing like there's only one group of people in it and you should probably expand your boardroom, not remove board seats and switch them out, but maybe add a couple of board seats and promote from within or do something like that. Here's the brilliant thing that they thought of, and if you thought that disingenuous, if you were thinking disingenuous before, they chose to ban cards. That's right. They chose to ban cards. They banned cards. They that they found were problematic.
Yeah.
One of those cards was a card that everyone thought was already banned for that reason because there's only in the history of Magic ever really been a true racist card called Prejudice. It was a blue
Yeah.
enchantment that depicted Klansmen, KKK Klansmen on it, except they
Yes.
wore black robes instead of white robes, but it was exactly the same. Even the card itself was Prejudice. The flavor text was Prejudice. The artist, turns out, nobody did a background check on this time because I think the guy was like, I think the card was printed in the 90s or the early
Yeah,
2000s.
it was an old
It was
old
a very
card.
old card, and it turned out that the artist was a white supremacist. So that wasn't that wasn't good. Everyone thought that it was banned for years. It wasn't. That was the only card that in that whole thing that they were like, "Oh, this is problematic."
So this is just like the friggin' like the Splash Mountain thing that we talked about in the Disney, like how it's like it was based off a song of the South, and they decided to change it in 2020 or
Yes.
2021.
Yes, this is exactly that, but for cardboard.
Yeah.
Um, and the other cards, most people, it was really they just did it just because. And it was like some of the artwork you were like, okay, I could see kind of why, but that probably wasn't the intention. Or can't they just have other? Oh, well, some of those cards were on the reserve list, so they couldn't just print it with new artwork and say, okay, we fixed it, which still doesn't. But they banned things that, and like some of them, just the flavor text was, some of them they banned just because it, like they banned the card Crusade, which just gave all white creatures +1/+1. That's white is a color in the game. They're like it didn't say white people at the card table get +1/+1 everything. It was it's it's a card type. It's a color in the game. Uh, anyway. It was the most disingenuous thing in the world, and it was just so bizarre. And they, oh yeah, also for some reason they decided that orcs were racist, where everyone was like, "What do you like? Huh?" That's another
Yeah.
thing for another day. Where like people were like, "Well, what do you like? I didn't think orcs were racist. Why do you think that?" It like you wouldn't think that unless you were racist. So why did you think that? And that's different. But anyway, to wrap this up, kind of, sort of, maybe. Well, oh yeah. Also, Magic was during this quarter thing. Um, they also were talking about whatever their Blueprint 2.0 thing, which is which is pumping more money into less brands, which means they're basically just going to keep doing what they've been doing, and we don't know anything, despite evidence that they've been overprinting and everything else, and making bad decisions. And I don't know, a declining stock price might be a good indicator that you're not making good choices. But what do I know? I'm not even a
Yeah.
shareholder.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm stupid for not investing in crap. I don't know. Um, but yeah, despite all this, Magic is the first $1 billion brand, which just means whatever they mean. And another record year at Wizards of the Coast and digital gaming, which just basically means they put all their eggs in one basket, which everyone tells you from the age of a child's age that you shouldn't do. But they're doing it anyway because it's good for the cocktail party. I don't know. It's bad. That's what they're doing, and they just simply are like, we're just going to keep doing what we're doing, and we're going to sink everything into Wizards of the Coast, and that's it. So nothing is really going to change unless until the executive leadership is just completely removed, or they sell Wizards of the Coast because they've milked it and destroyed it. Like, so yeah. Like,
Yeah.
even the promotion of Magic 30 was so bad that they couldn't push it to you. They couldn't get YouTube. They couldn't get YouTubers that actually were Magic YouTubers to review the product favorably or convince them to make it seem awesome. So they reached out to other content creators that had nothing to that didn't know anything about Magic, and they were just giving them Magic 30th to review.
Mm-hmm.
We're like, this poor guy Ruxin 34, Ruxin 70, I don't remember. This poor guy Ruxin he like he was like a big he's a big Yu-Gi-Oh or Pokemon player or something, and he they gave him Magic 30 stuff, and they made him sign an NDA, and that it was great, and they would pay him, and he needed to talk only good things about it, and he's like giving the review, and he's like, yeah, this is kind of cool. This was good. Yeah, I think this is kind of cool. I know this is supposed to be a rare card and worth money, but this is cool. Like, he didn't know what the product was because they were counting on that. So like he was like, oh yeah, this was fine. Like he was like, oh, this is pretty cool. I think it's all right. And then he saw all of the backlash in the comments, and they told him exactly what the product was, and they were like, we're not mad at you. We're just mad at the situation, but like this is now directed at you because you might make people buy it, and we're trying to hold the line. And he took the video down immediately, and he issued like several apologies, and he was like, oh my god, what have I done? And he like sent out a second video just basically saying, I like that video's taken down. I gave them their money back. I don't know if there's anything legally that's going to happen to me, but I don't want this. I'm not promoting this. Like, I'm so sorry. I now need to regain my goodwill with the community, with like the trading card game community, because I've lost a lot of my credibility now. So now I have to like make sure that I'm doing better due diligence and everything. And they did this to this poor guy during Thanksgiving week. So like
Mm-hmm.
they it's just they really like this poor guy. Like they just made like Wizards basically took like Hasbro basically took this guy in the back and shot him. It's like it's pretty terrible, but I assume that he's recovered since then, and I hope he's doing okay. But man, like this is the levels that they were willing to stoop because nobody wanted this product and they refused to listen. And they will continue to stop. They will continue to refuse to listen, especially since the D&D thing did not work out how they expected it. And we'll have to see what happens. But the only thing that can really force a change is if the stock sinks low enough for executive leadership to change. And even if executive leadership changes, who knows who the next person that's going to come in? Like, for all you know, you get somebody worse who completely destroys it
Mm-hmm.
and just reprints the reserve list, and then it goes to zero. Or maybe you get someone who actually cares, like there's an activist hedge fund that former Magic Pro John Finkel um, had like set up where they wanted to like buy out Wizards of the Coast and spin it off from Hasbro and just fix everything. Which, I mean, they couldn't raise enough capital, but like I don't think that they were really going to be able to make that change realistically. But the fact that they showed that somebody was willing to do it could have somebody else step up and decide to do it, or maybe someone would partner with them to help them buy this thing and fix it. But who really knows? It's just freaking crazy. Also, one time they had a pro tour, and then they got rid of the pro tour, and other pros went to play other card games, and they still have some pros but not really. And then they had a arena pro, but they didn't tell people how they could actually become pros, and like nobody knew what was going on. So it's just been bad decision after bad decision in a
Yep.
nutshell. So to sum this thing up, on our longest episode ever, maybe we'll even cut this episode into two parts. I have no
Yeah.
idea. um to sum this up, as wonderful as the card game Magic the Gathering is, the company managing it is just as terrible.
Mm-hmm.
It is such a weird yin and yang
Yeah.
that it makes no sense. And although we are ending this on a sort of grim thing, Well, Phyrexia will be one is a great set.
Yeah.
I think March of the Machine will be very good, and if and after March of the Machine, I will be very happy because I will not be giving any more money to Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro for a very long time. I will not even be giving money to the secondary market for a very long time. I will not be buying anything. These last couple of weeks have been part of my last hurrah. I have been buying all of the expensive things that I held off on, and I am just I'm burning out my wallet to make sure that I'm just burning out my wallet and credit card to just purge myself of all of these feelings, and I'm making myself sick to my stomach so that I never want to buy any more Magic stuff ever again. I'll play the game, but I refuse to keep up with the product. I refuse to look at the new cards coming out. I refuse to buy the new cards coming out. All of these cards that I am buying now, that's all that I'm going to have for a very, very, very long time. And after the March of the Machine pre-release, I'm keeping the collection that I'm keeping, which is just my Commander decks, and I'm selling everything else. And I'm not allowed to touch any of this stuff or look at the product for a very long time. I'm freeing myself until this company does better and fixes its problems. That is my
So
pledge to you, the community. I am putting my money where my mouth is.
probably forever.
Well, that's too bad. It was a good run.
Yeah.
I'll play the game. I just will not keep up with everything going on. Thank you for listening to me and Rob ramble, but mostly me.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much. You have all been very, very helpful, and we appreciate each and every one of you, and thank you. We'll see you at the next cocktail party. That reminds me. I went. That's okay. This will end it on a happy note. I went to I went to the store because I had a craving for cereal. I went to the supermarket and there was a sale on General Mills. I think it was General Mills, one of the cereal brands anyway. So they had they had a they had a few different cinnamon toast crunch variants. We're getting back into the overprinting, and I decided I decided I would take home a box of cinnamon toast crunch churros. Or cinnamon toast churros or whatever they called it. And I get home and the missus is sitting across from me, and she's having her ice cream, and I decided I'm gonna have my cereal. I'm in the mood for cereal. So I open up the churros and I start laughing uncontrollably, and she's like, "What's so funny?" And I'm like, "All of these churros look like cocks."
Oh God.
I'm not sure if it was the curvature of the churros. I'm not sure if it was the hole in the wrong place or right place, or just a combination of all of it. Maybe it was the color, or the size, because they were tiny. It just it just looked like a bag of it just looked like a box of cocks. And don't get me, and I could not and I laughed even harder when I started pouring the milk on them.
Yeah.
And because they're churros, there's holes on both ends. So some of the milk was coming out of the holes with the
Oh
little
God.
cocks. So I enjoyed my box of cocks at my cocktail party for one.
Yeah.
And it was a doozy.
Yeah.
So the next time you eat a churro, think of me. This has been Why Does This Exist?
Uh,
I've been Chris, not to be
I
confused with Chris Cox. I'm Chris Sans Cox.
and I'm Rob.
Remember, question everything.
Good night, everybody.
I'm gonna need years of therapy.